Afternoon. Afternoon for some people. It's morning still for some other people. How y'all doing? We are going live a little bit earlier than we normally do. And that's because I have things I have to do today. But there's a couple of lives I want to actually get done because there's a couple of things I want to talk about. But I definitely wanted to talk about this because when I first saw Drewski's skit, for those who don't know, Drewski's a comedian. His big thing is making skits. He sets things up and he makes skits. He made a recent skit about a pastor and the pastor's being holstered up. Um, and he's got fireworks and things like that going in the back and all of that, and folks are donating to him, which is something that we do actually see in like major churches. And there were some people who thought that was offensive and thought that Druski crossed the line and thought Druski was being disrespectful. And then there were some people who didn't. There were some people who thought that, what Druski said is actually very true and actually very accurate. Okay. So I want to have this conversation to give my opinion and then get the community's opinion. All right. Now, to be very honest with you, I'm a just call it how I see it. I think that skit is pretty accurate, especially when it comes to mega churches. You see stuff like that. You see pastors, coming, falling from the ceiling and doing stuff like this. And I get people are trying to say, well, they got to give you a visual of certain things, people don't want to just stand there and preach. People want to be excited. People want a visual. People want this and that. I mean, I understand all of that. And I'm not sitting up there trying to knock anybody. But I do see, especially when it comes to a lot of these mega churches, and I do think that it is important that we separate the mega churches from Christianity as a religion itself. Because I think a lot of people, when they criticize the church, people or a church, people feel as if you're criticizing any and everybody who is Christian or the whole faith. And I don't think that's the same thing. It's not the same thing. All right. Because all churches don't operate this way. I'm just going to just get that out there right now. All churches don't operate this way, where pastors are driving in Rolls Royces and got Rolex watches and stuff like that. And, their wives are wearing red bottoms and things like that. That's not how all pastors live with, multi-million-dollar mansions. They don't live like that. But now you do have some mega churches and some pastors who got like private jets. You really do have that. And who have millions and millions of dollars. And look, this is not to hate, but this is to say, okay, let's be realistic with it, because they get their money through non-tax donations that they get from people who are Christian. And it seems like that money is not going towards the betterment of the community. I mean, they're getting a lot of money. I've seen pastors talk about, you need to come up here with $2,000. And then there was this one woman who said, well, I only got 1,000. He's all like, well, I'm going to need that other $1,000. I've seen pastors like literally, and I'm not saying every, cause I know there's going to be some people, oh, pastors don't do it. But we have seen viral videos of pastors literally shame people for not paying their tithes or not paying as much as they feel like their tithes should be. We've seen that. And I think with Druski's skit, it allows us to kind of have an honest reflection of how some of these pastors really operate, where they be dressing in $1,000 suits and everything. And you don't see, and my thing is this, if they was doing that, but you saw $1 million worth of benefit going into the community, millions of dollars worth of benefit going even into what Christian organizations, even, if you was to see that, then maybe you could say, okay, fine. And I'm not saying that being a pastor should be a payless job. I'm not saying you shouldn't get any money from it. I'm not saying you should live your life struggling if you are being a pastor or you are being religious person like that. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying, okay, there should be honesty and transparency and an honest reflection of these mega churches that get millions of dollars. Okay. And it seems like a lot of those millions of dollars tend to go to select people who come back and say that you need to give money because this is what God wants you to do. And it will shame you and make you feel as if you're less of a Christian or not a good Christian, that you're not pious to the faith. You don't strongly believe in whatever this faith is if you don't donate. But the donations tend to happen to go to their pocketbook. So I want to have that honest conversation. I think Drewski's skit was really good because it kind of opened the door and allow us to have this honest conversation about what is really going on in some of these mega churches, to be honest. Let's talk about that. Let me bring some people up. ZZ, how you doing?
I'm good, darling. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm so blessed. Where's BX at?
She's supposed to be here. I don't know where she at.
Oh,
I've sent her a bunch of messages, so she might show up a little bit later.
Okay, she might be on live already or somebody else live.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hopefully she pops up. Yeah, I'm glad we're talking about this. This is crazy, especially seeing that. I don't know if you've seen that viral picture now that's going around with another pastor literally in the same exact outfit.
I thought it was a skit, to be very honest with you. I thought he was doing like a copy skit of Drewski. I didn't know he was actually really wearing that. That's crazy.
Yeah, that is I mean, it's insane, but that's what makes the skit so damn hilarious, because like you said, it's not every church, it's not every pastor that's taking advantage or trying to exploit the community. But yeah, you know exactly when you see that skit, you knew exactly who the fuck we was talking about. I didn't know it wasn't, like you said, I didn't realize it was a pastor dressed the exact same way. But I did know what type of pastor he was talking about, what type of church he was talking. I can already imagine in my head, those sort of churches, those mega churches, the churches where the pastor and the wife are really well off. And it was really befitting. Unfortunately, it's a harsh truth that we have to address, because a lot of these people are getting off on the community. They getting off. They scamming. Okay. The church is supposed to be about uplifting the people, uplifting the community, spreading the knowledge. And that's kind of shifted the main point of that. Now, a lot of the times people are getting into that, especially not only just church. You can open this up to even just some of these other people who are just, self-proclaimed teachers or pastors or counselors, or, these are people who are just coming into these things for profit, not to actually help people, not to actually spread the word of God, or do anything really productive for the community. It's very self-absorbed, thing that they're doing. So yeah, I'm glad that he made the skit. I thought it was hilarious. I'm not in the church like that. I wasn't offended. But I think those of us who are in the church shouldn't be offended either, because again, it's just a real reality. It is what it is. Like, it's happened. It's happening. And so yeah, we have to be honest about it if we're gonna do something real about it. So yeah, I appreciate it. I ain't gonna lie. I thought it was hilarious.
I did too. There's some people trying to. Okay. Since BX isn't here, what we do is make sure your language. I'm just gonna give a summary. Be TikTok friendly with your language. Okay. What we do require people to be over 18 to join the conversation, and then we ask for your ethnic background for context going forward. All right.
All right, I got you. Can you hear me fine?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I'm 28. I'm Black American.
Okay. What's on your mind?
Oh man, yeah, man. I think everybody's talking about this Druski skit, especially, but I think it's a lot of truth in it, I think the church, especially the Protestant church, within the black church especially, is lacking guidance. They're doing this for income, for money, uh, for to be seen, buying clothes, cars, and stuff like that. And I think it's a lot of truth that was put out. Um, Only thing I got against the skit is that he was talking about the blood of Jesus, and he lifts up his shoes. I don't play about that. See, I grew up in the black church, but recently I converted into the Eastern Orthodox. So I'm no longer a part of that branch of Christianity no more or whatnot. So I can see why the Protestant or the black church is taking so much hit because you don't see this stuff done with big mega churches and stuff like that, with lights and scenery, music blasting like that. That's not in the the original church, right? That you don't see that in the Catholic Church or the Orthodox Church. You don't see none of this. Everything is completely different. That's why, like me, I'm urging black people to actually leave the black church, leave and come to the ancient church. That's what I did. I grew up in the black church, and I grew up in the black church, and that's what I deal with. All this shouting and running around. I had this. My pastor used to ask for money. He used to sit somebody down in a chair, and he would say, "Come donate." This is not done in the Orthodox Church. The Orthodox Church don't even take offering unless you want to give it. So we're looking at a particular set of Christianity, and Drewski, all he's doing is just pointing it out, but it's a negative outlook because all black people know is this set of Christianity that they see. That's all they know or whatnot. I'm not saying that all churches do it. I'm not saying that all mega churches are out here doing that, but you shouldn't be having a mega church anywhere, to be honest, and whatnot. And if you see the pastor dressing in Christian Dior, hold on, that's all I got to say.
Okay, can I ask a question though? When you say the black church, what do you mean by that specifically? Because you said we should,
Because
you would encourage black
is
people to go to
particular.
the Orthodox church, but then you say they should leave the black church. What is like the black church?
Well, the Eastern, like I see a lot of more Black Americans. They're coming to the Orthodox Church and stuff like that. When I'm particularly talking about the Black Church, I'm talking about how we're seeing people flying down and on ropes. Because I seen videos like this, uh, shouting, asking for money and stuff like that. Asking for donations, asking to bless them and something. You're not seeing anything getting done around the church. You're not seeing any new microphones, no new TVs, no new updates. Like, where is this money going to?
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I agree. I definitely agree. It's not like the donations and the tithes are being reflected and seen in the church. I do want to say though, it's not. This isn't just a black church thing because you have the richest pastor, not James, Joel Osteen. He's a white pastor, and he's got he's driving in Rolls Royces and got a crazy mansion. And then you have Kenneth Copeland. These are also white pastors who do the same finesse. So it's I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I just want to add context to that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, thank you for that. I grew up watching Joyce Myers, watching Joel Osteen and stuff like that. And at the age of around 23, I got away from that. I got away from that, watching all that stuff. It just didn't feel right to me. I'm not learning anything, and to me, these churches, they don't teach anything. They don't teach anything. They're not teaching correct doctrine. People can't even defend their faith.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Like people, like they just preaching the word, and people they don't even understand or interpretate the word. So it's a difference from preaching the word and understanding the word, right? So it's a difference within the Orthodox Church. You're actually learning about the Trinity. You actually learning about the church fathers or how Christianity started. You're not learning any of that in the Protestant church. You're not learning. You don't learn. You don't know who canonized the Bible. You're not learning any of that.
Okay.
Damn, that baby in the background
That
going
baby.
crazy.
Baby not playing.
Okay. All right, brother.
Nah,
All right. Well, yeah. Okay. All right.
I feel like if you're a real Christian, then you would understand that what Druski is doing is necessary. And I say that because, nigga, humans are flawed. Like, God created the Bible, but he ain't create religion. if you know what I'm saying. So it's like it's easy for this shit to get tainted. It's easy for us to, as humans, to like fall into sins and greed and shit like that. And he just exposing that shit on the highest level, for real, to me.
Mm.
Cause we all in some way feel that way. Like, what God need my 10% for? What God need my 10% tithe for? You know what I'm saying? And these churches supposed to be for the community, but somebody told me that when you go to the hood, you can find a church on every on every corner in the hood, if you know what I'm saying, or every other corner you can find a church. If that's the case and churches are for the community, why our communities don't look better? Where is the money going? We got people that go to church every Sunday and we don't see none of it around the community, but on a Christmas when they decide they want to put some plates together.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think this is another thing that Dr. King was talking about. Dr.
Absolutely.
King was talking about the fact that the churches are supposed to be there for the community. They're
Mm,
supposed to be in service of the community. Okay. There's supposed to be vessels where people can go to, like of the Lord, where the message of God is there, but the people who are the pastors and all of that, they're there to serve the people in the
mm,
community. They're not there for their own personal reasons. We have a lot of people who are becoming pastors and they're trying their best to, and my thing is, even when it comes to the whole televised thing, where churches, because that's kind of a recent thing. 50 years ago, you didn't have televised church sessions. You would have to
mm.
either go to church or you miss church.
Hmm.
Now, I do understand everybody can't go to church, but some people still want to attend the service. So, yeah, okay, you would have televised sessions. And I think that really got popularized with the, C19. I think that was really like put it on out there, right? And I
Mhm.
understand that. But now you have people who are utilizing that and trying to raise their own profile. And then you
Mm.
have pastors doing book signings and book deals, and they're using their status and profile to open up other business ventures and things of the sort.
Absolutely.
And
And I
they're
can,
they're enriching themselves through the church.
mm. And I would say that shit, even on a more national scale, America knows that this is happening. America, as in the government, knows that this is happening. There's this thing.
What's going on? What happened?
It's Mike is muted.
My bad. If you was to register your company, if you was to register your industry or whatever your business under something called it's tax exempt basically. Churches are supposed to be nonprofit. Technically, they're supposed to be nonprofit. But a lot of these businesses are making capital gains because you can still run a church without making profit, if you know what I'm saying. Like you could run a church, keep the lights on, keep all of that shit together without making profit. But a lot of these people, especially like if you look at Kanye, they'll go create a church under LLC and just collect profit off the people when this is supposed to be a non-profit industry
Hmm.
or industry where 100% of profits go back reinvested or back into the community. That's not happening. People are creating churches as businesses or LLCs with the expectation of capital gains.
Hey, can I say something?
Yeah, where you yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah. What's your
Yeah,
ethnic background real quick?
yeah. I'm black. I'm black African American. Yeah.
Atlanta.
But
Okay.
what I wanted to say is this, right? My good friend, and I'm in Atlanta. My good friend Creflo Dollar. Me and him are personal friends. And Creflo Dollar, I mean, he has the expensive cars, he has the jet, the stuff like that. And yeah, they do really well at his church. But the thing is, like, if you lose your job, and you're a tithe paying participant at the church, you lose your job, they'll pay all your bills until you find another job. They'll pay your mortgage, light bill, electricity, gas bill, water bill, everything. So just because the man has all this stuff, I mean, that don't make him a bad person. Or because he run another business under the 503(c), that don't make him a bad person. Because who wants a broke preacher? If you got a broke preacher, how can you help the people?
And that's a fair argument, and I don't think anybody's saying that they should be broke. But let me just double down
It's
on the
not about
question.
being broke. It's
Hold
about
on,
transparency.
let me just double down on the question. You when you say African American, who in your family immigrated to America? Which side of your family?
Immigrated to America.
Yeah.
Well, my parents are from the U.S. Virgin Islands, but I was born in Atlanta.
Oh, okay. So yeah. So your parents were born in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Both your parents, right?
yeah, yeah.
Now, do you know that when you say African American, and I could tell, I was going to circle back because I can tell by your accent. I was going to circle back to you.
Hmm.
Do you know that what you're doing is that you're kind of you're not kind of, you are cosplaying when you refer to yourself as an African American because there's already an ethnic group of people that claim is spoken for. The term African American is already spoken for, and you are not a part of that lineage. You are not a part of that not lineage, that ethnicity.
Okay, so what would you say? What would you call it?
You are where your people are from. You are where you said your people are from again.
Oh, the Virgin Islands.
So what is that they call that?
Um,
Hold on. What do they call that
I
exactly?
mean, like if you're from the Virgin Islands, like I'm from St. Thomas, so they call it like a St. Tomian would
Oh,
be
oh,
St. Thomas.
oh,
Virgin
see,
Island would be
okay.
Virgin Islanders, but it's all U.S. territory. But I don't know, like as far as what else you would call it. You know what I mean?
So
Caribbean.
you're Santomian then.
Yeah,
That's what you
yeah,
are. You're Caribbean,
yeah,
and that's
yeah.
okay. And that doesn't mean you can't participate in the conversation. We'll still allow you to participate in the conversation. But the thing is that the everybody got to mute. The context matters. Uh, Hold on. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to just drop you off because I don't know what's going on. I tried to mute, but the thing still wouldn't mute. I don't know what's going on.
I don't
The
know.
context matters. All right. So where you're from is going to give us more context as to why you might think a certain type of way. You know what I'm
Okay,
saying?
okay.
So this is why we say certain things because we have a lot of people when we have Black American Foundation, Black American conversations, we have people who are saying, I'm a Black American, technically, I'm an African American, but really their family are immigrants. You know what I'm saying? And they get to join the conversation and speak on certain issues with authority as if they have a claim to a lineage that they don't. So this is why we specify. All right. I just want to address that. And then to your other point that pastors shouldn't be broke. I don't think that pastors should be broke. I don't think that if you're waking up every day and you're reading the Bible and you're studying and you're trying to preach the word of God and you're trying to educate people on their faith and help people on their faith, I'm not saying that you should be poor for doing that. Okay? I don't like the idea of, you have to sacrifice your livelihood for everybody else and everybody else gets to go to church and then go to work and live a decent life. You should be able to live a decent life. I mean, it takes money to raise a family. It does. And they should be able to have some money too. I think that it does go overboard, which is what Drewski Skit was kind of speaking to. It goes overboard where you have mega churches and these mega churches are gaining millions of dollars annually. Like some of these churches really get
Yeah, yeah.
millions of dollars annually. And then some of these pastors, they tend to get, it seems like they get millions of dollars and they say it's because of outside of the church business ventures. But I mean, the common denominator is that they got a lot of money. Their business ventures don't make up that much money. And yet they're at the church with thousands of dollars worth of clothes,
Absolutely.
thousands of dollars worth of jewelry, thousands of
Hmm.
dollars worth of suits and driving whole Rolls Royces and all of that. So I think
Okay.
that's where people say, and I'd like to get your opinion on this after we get to the next speaker. That's what people are saying when it comes to this Drewski skit.
Can I?
That hey man, it's way too much because at that point there should be a line between the pastor should be able to get paid. The pastor shouldn't have to be broke and destitute. There should be a line between that and then the pastor exploiting the community. You know what I'm saying? Where's the line that is being drawn between the
Hey,
pastor not
I
getting
think it's
anything
the
and the
well,
purpose.
hold
pastor
on.
I think
exploiting
that
people?
shows what you saying kind of shows the intent. One of the most influential pastors in the world was Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, and he lived a regular middle class life. You know what I'm saying? He
Hmm.
had millions of followers across the
Hey,
world,
but you
but
didn't really know what his
his
pockets. You didn't
intention
really know
was
his
not
pockets were,
Hold
bro.
capital
on, hold on, hold
gain.
on, hold on.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you,
Now
but
go ahead, go ahead.
his intention wasn't capital gain. His intention was to help the people. The money that he raised went back into getting people, when they was doing the bus boycott, getting people free rides to and from wherever they was going. That money was being reinvested. When you look at other nonprofit agencies, they have employees that need to be paid, but those employees actually have salary caps, meaning that no matter what our company makes in profit or how much we gain as far as profit, our salaries stay the same because our intention is to raise money to reinvest back into the community. So when you see salaries increasing, like you got this man, the richest pastor in the world, got 60 acres of land for one person. Is you growing food on that land for people, or is that just for you?
Hey, check this out, right? Okay, you look at Eddie Long's church in Atlanta, New Birth Missionary Church, Eddie Long Church here. Okay, a lot of people didn't like Eddie Long. She had some issues going on with some guys or whatever, you know, taking them here and taking them there. But we won't get into that. But now, like, okay, so they gave for Thanksgiving, they gave out 4,000 turkeys to the community. 4,000 turkeys. I gave 100 of those. I paid for 100 of those. So like the churches, some of them are doing good things, you know what I mean, for the community. But I agree with what Afro said. You know what I mean? There are some that exploit. You know what I
That
mean? There
should be
are some
year
people.
round though. You
Yeah, they
shouldn't
do
be
it. Yeah, they
people
do it. Yeah.
hungry every day. People not just hungry on
Hey, listen,
Thanksgiving.
this place gives out food all the time, bro. I just made the point about Thanksgiving,
Okay.
but like, you know, as long as like Creflo Dollar, man, that dude is such a giving person, man. Like he'll give you the shirt off his back. You know what I mean? He's just a very giving person. You know what I mean? So when you look at people look at him from the outside and look at all his possessions and stuff, and you like you said, the flashy clothes, $1,000 tie, and the Gucci shoes and all that. I think people pay attention to the wrong thing. You got to look at what these people are doing for the community. You know what I mean? That's what it come down to.
Mm. Do you think before we get to the next speaker, do you think that the representation, do you think the imagery of a pastor walking into a church wearing thousands of dollars worth of jewelry and thousands of dollars worth of clothes and suits and name brand shoes, do you think that that imagery is productive for the church? You think that reflects well on the church?
Hell
Oh,
nah.
definitely,
No,
definitely. And let me tell you why it represents, because Jesus, you remember when Jesus, they was about to crucify Jesus, they took his clothes. The reason they took his clothes is because they were very expensive. And they said they cast lots on his clothes to find out who would get his clothes, because he didn't have no regular clothes. He had like royal purple, royal stuff that they had to actually like cast lots to pay for his clothes. So Jesus led the example that preachers should have beautiful, expensive clothes.
Well, I
He's like,
think
okay,
okay, I would
Jesus was
say.
not walking around with Gucci flip flops, so I'm not.
Yeah, and you also have to
Exactly.
take the time period into consideration. This is a time period where fabrics were considered currency at the time. Like people bartered and traded fabrics. So he might have had on some. He just might have had on a fabric wrapped around his body, and they called it,
He
you
had
know,
on linen. He had
linen.
on
You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
That was
they
a
casted
currency back
lots for
then.
his clothes, man. How much
Okay,
his
let's
clothes
hold on.
cost?
Let's be fair. Let's get
Yep.
to the next speaker so
All right.
everybody get a chance
All right.
to
hey,
jump
I
in.
just quote scripture because Jesus says, it's harder for a rich, it's easier for a camel to get to the eye of a needle for a rich man to get to heaven. So you got to think about it like that. So how much are you gaining, right? How much money is going into your pocket and not going to the saints? Because if the saint comes to you in a time of need, are you going to be able to give them money? Are you going to be able to if they down on rent, are you going to be able to give them rent? That's what the church is for, is to help the saints and to grow the congregation.
Hmm. Let's get to James. We're gonna get to James, and then we're gonna get to the speakers who've been
What up,
laying down.
y'all? I was just listening while I'm laying back. I'm in Atlanta also. It's cold, so we didn't have to work today. But I was just, just listening to y'all. I grew up in church. I knew all the books of the Bible, and they're in every hood and every corner in Rhode Island, just like every hood. I learned as I advanced that just, it's a place where we can be, where we're not getting in trouble. That's just how it was, but they're not teaching us the origins. They only can have these churches if they keep teaching us that same shit. So it's political, but you all made great points. But you comparing these pastors today to Dr. King, but it's a different era, and every churches are different. It depends on the theme of the church. Some are they're just like the old MLK, and some are pimped out today, like these mega churches, like you mentioned, ATMs and everything. But there are some small town churches that that are more spiritual. But you made some great points as far as providing for the communities. Thank you, Alan.
Okay, do you think that there should be like but do you think that that's okay? Do you think that there should be like this big difference between the, I guess, quality of churches, where one church got millions of dollars and the next church, is just okay? Like, do you think
right,
that should be okay?
It probably could fall into the same umbrella of, like you were saying, with their companies, their corporations. You know what I'm saying? I live in Atlanta. You meet these all kind of people. I met this woman. She was bisexual, but she owned churches. Her family invested in churches. That was their business. Rather it was a mega church or one by the farm. So it's a corporation. So it's real deep.
But it shouldn't be,
should
though.
churches be a corporation? How do you invest in a church?
That's
what
my
do you
point.
what do you expect back? You can donate to a church, but when you make investments on things that you expect profit from,
exactly.
So when you say investing in a church, that should be a red flag, don't you think?
Absolutely. When I met her, I was like, whoa, that's, I never heard of that before, and this was a young woman, and that's what her family did.
I mean, you have to invest in the church. If that church is your,
it's a business.
Hold on, but the churches are not supposed to be operating like a business. Yes, there is business that goes into running a church, but the church isn't supposed to, or it shouldn't. I'm asking you guys, do you think the church should operate?
Okay,
that's exactly why I brought up nonprofit organizations. These are organizations that are businesses that have business expense, but they have profits as well, but those profits are redistributed back into the business or back into the community that they came from. It shouldn't be. Churches hold a social responsibility. And I brought up Dr. King because Dr. King was not only a pastor, but he was a leader in the community. He led his community. All of the leaders in the time when we needed leaders were pastors. Like everybody that's around him was pastors, leaders of their community, people who held responsibilities to their communities. And I think we giving pastors a pass.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, you can come preach the word of God, but what are you doing it for? Like, you have a responsibility. If you're going to be God's servant, you have a responsibility to his people.
Hey, when you talk about investment, like investment in a church, I can say that, yeah, you can invest in a church. You look at some churches that might not be that big, or even mega million churches out here, right? Okay, so they want a basketball court, for the kids to play, or for the community to play basketball. They want stuff like that. So the people invest in the church, and guess what? You got a basketball court that keeps people, like the brother was saying.
That's not what he said. That's not what he said, though.
Hey, brother.
He said that they were investing. The way James just put it, he made it seem as if they're investing as if the church is stocks and bonds.
No, I don't think
they're investing in churches expecting some type of profit.
Is that what you meant, bro? Is that what you meant, bro?
Capital gain.
He literally just said that's her business. That's what she does.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that part.
But let's be fair and let's get to the next speaker.
Speaking of basketball courts.
Yo, I'm a drop.
Check this out. Speaking of basketball courts. So I ain't gonna lie, man. 40 years old, from Louisiana, but I grew up in Houston. I think I witnessed the first mega church, the birth of the mega church. It was Lakewood Church. It was in Lakewood area of Houston, Texas, which was a very downtrodden part of Houston, Texas. This was before they moved to the what used to be the Compact Center where the Rockets used to play. This was when they was on the northeast side of Houston, Texas, uh Lakewood Church, uh right down the street. It was a whole apartment complex that was abandoned. That's how bad this area was. They used to call it home of the Jackers. Um when they moved from there, then they went to where the Houston Rockets used to play before they moved to the Toyota Center, and moved in that big old spot over there. So fast forward, I go and live in Los Angeles, and that's where they had the church on Crenshaw and Exposition. I forget what it was called. That was a huge church. So I seen all these big old churches, and that's when I started to realize, like, this is bigger than just church. You know what I'm saying? These people want people to be in the seats, like you watching people play basketball games, because that's how big these churches are. Now I get it. If you have such a big congregation, you want to be able to seat these people. Then
Mm,
when I was living in Baton Rouge, man, there was a church. Now this wasn't a big old church like the churches I'm talking about, but it was a big church nonetheless. There's another church that's in a neighborhood called Ghost Town in Baton Rouge, and I mean, the name speaks for itself. You know what I'm saying? The church is nice. The neighborhood is the neighborhood is a place that you don't want to be caught at nighttime.
mm,
And so when I see stuff like that, man, I just it always hit me in my spirit. Like, how could we have these places in these neighborhoods that, you know, I know the church is getting buku money. They're getting a lot of money. But what do they do for the area that's surrounding the church?
mm,
And so, and look, I'm not somebody. I don't go to church like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a spiritual person. I feel like I could do this on my own. I don't necessarily need to be around a bunch of people in the congregation and all that stuff like that. But one of the things that always struck me as odd is that you can have these people that's receiving all this money in tithes and stuff like that, and the area that they around isn't doing so well. Not, I can't. I'll push back on myself. There was another place that I used to because I'm a chef, so I used to volunteer my time with a specific group of people that was a part of a church to cook for homeless people in Baton Rouge. And I wasn't even a part of their church. I came across these people on Instagram, and I just started volunteering myself. And we used to do some good and stuff like that. So I could say all what I said in the beginning, and then I could say what I just said in the end. And I just want to know from other people, like, how can these churches be so grandiose, but the places around it is just like, what is the church doing for the place the places around the church?
yeah,
I
yeah.
can I answer that?
That's a good question. Hold on, hold on. We almost have everybody done, so let's get to Sunflower.
Yeah,
And I want to be
I
fair to
want to
everybody.
say
Let
something.
everybody speak at least one time. So Sunflower, you got it.
Okay, I wanted to speak on the fact that the young gentleman just said, how is the churches able to operate in well, it's considered low income neighborhoods because they do a contract with the city to be able to cipher from those that they deemed as They're not educated. They're not in their awareness. So if you move into a neighborhood that has a liquor store on every corner, the crime rate is up. They're easily to be manipulated into that thought pattern that they need a savior. So that's what you see. And for me, I've witnessed it majority of my life. I didn't move all over the USA, and I always got this concept: how's there 3 churches to every 3 liquor stores in certain neighborhoods? But then if you venture out, because I'm a truck driver now and I pay attention. And right now I'm out in the country. All I see is farmland. You might see one church in a neighborhood and the liquor store will be like 10 miles away. So for me, I'm thinking like, what is going on here? It's like when you understand who you are, you don't require nobody else to tell you who you are. You too busy building. And that's what I witnessed. I witnessed these people are building. I went into a neighborhood, what I want to say 2 weeks ago. I actually lightweight got lost, but what I noticed was the whole neighborhood had brand new houses, and I'm like, where do these people work at that acquire this type of money? I do what I do, and I'm not struggling. But to be able to go buy a $200 to $300 to maybe $400,000 house, and it's a whole neighborhood full of it, and I know these people don't get down like how I get down. I work my tail off, and I still be trying to figure out how are they able to afford stuff like this, because they're not programmed to believe what's in that book. They go to church, but guess what? In that church, they are all communicating once church over with about, well, yeah, my dad just passed away, but he left me 100 acres. We're not doing that in our community. And even if we too busy dealing with the fact that a lot of our people are dealing with trauma, and a trauma turn into addictions. So of course they're going to move churches into our neighborhood, because that's the most easiest profit of programming that you can put into a neighborhood that don't know thyself.
Hey, I wanted to say something. I disagree.
Hold on, brother. Hold on,
That was dope.
Got to chill.
I like
hold
that.
on.
That was dope. You broke it down.
We don't even know. Did you finish your? Because we got to let her land, and then there's a couple other speakers who haven't spoken yet.
Yeah, that's just what I wanted to speak on about the churches. Like, I don't think that in the melanin community or low income communities, I feel like we need to just boil it down to just one church. But this needs to be the community. And then my thing is, we need to set standards for what they're going to do for the community. You can't just come in here and brainwash my grandma, and my grandpa done worked his whole life, but he gonna make sure that his wife is okay, and he gonna get her the money to get to the church. But let one of them get sick, and the church pastor going out the back door saying he can't help. But that's what the church has been doing to our community. They've been taking from us, but ain't giving back. It's plenty of apartment buildings where I stay. I'm from Ohio. I ain't gonna say what city, but I'm from Ohio, and where I stay at, it's like, why they not investing in some of these properties to house people? That's a lucrative income for the pastor. He ain't got to just always be asked in the congregation to come out for money. But I stayed in Atlanta. My pastor when I was going to church, my pastor had a 9 to 5. And that's why I was like, okay, I can respect him, because he's not constantly asking the congregation to front him on what it is that he was saying that he was called to do. I feel like any pastor should be able, if your majority of your congregation out here getting it, you should have some type of skill to be out here getting it, and study sweating on the pulpit and selling lies. Because if you don't know now, it ain't nothing but it's a con scheme. That's why they allowed to operate in a 401c. Go look it up. That's tax-free money. What are they doing with it besides the building fund? I done been in churches they ran through and they still begging for money. But like y'all said, the pastor got on $1,000 suit for what? A $25 suit will give you the same appearance as the $1,000 suit. They got in it because they are materialistic like anybody else in this world. They are part of that capitalist. They part of that capitalistic society. They're not in it to actually free their people or liberate their people. They didn't get in it because some of the pastors is ex-pimps, they ex-drug dealers, and they blame it like God called me to do this.
The language, you got to be careful because we on TikTok, so it's like
Hey,
I
Wilson.
hate
Hey,
to
I wanted to.
Hey, hold up,
interrupt.
everybody, chill. Go on mute. Go on mute. Just relax. He gonna direct.
I get the passion, y'all, but we're gonna allow everybody to speak. We allow everybody to get a chance to say what they gotta say.
I'm
But I
done.
get it. But thank you, Sunflower. All right, we're gonna get to Ramon and then Amani.
Yo, mic check. Afro, can you hear me?
You got loud and clear, brother.
For sure, for sure. What's up to you and Z? Real quick, man. You know what I'm saying? First off, I'm glad Drewski did that. Shout out to Drewski for doing that. And secondly, I grew up in South Arkansas, man. You know what I'm saying? Grew up in the church. And let me say this. The real pastors out here today are niggas like you. Niggas like ZZ, Black Alpha, Network. You know what I'm saying? See, I'm gonna tell you why I say that real quick, and I'm gonna land, man. I'm gonna tell you why I say that though. Take the story of Jesus. Everybody know he healed the blind. Now, when narrow-minded people hear that, they think they talk about people's eye vision. No, no, they not. Like he was walking around just giving people, touching people, LASIK surgery,
Damn, you
giving them
can
LASIK
damn, you
surgery. Say what?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, for sure, for sure. You good, Z. Now, the story of Jesus healing the blind. They wasn't talking about him performing eye surgeries on people. They were talking about the third eye being blind, and Jesus was giving information to them to open their third eye up. That's why they wanted to crucify him, just like today, like the information that y'all give out. So if you're going to donate to somebody, donate to Afro Elite. You know what I'm talking about? Donate to ZZ, Black Alpha Network, even King Flex. You know what I'm talking about? Y'all some real pastors, man. Okay, I'm not gonna say every church. I can't say every church, but when I go to church, if I go to church, I ain't been in years. But I'm just saying, remember growing up, thinking about the pastors' sermons and all that. Yo, it sounded like a comic book when you get grown and think about it. It ain't nothing tangible you can use in your everyday life. But niggas like y'all kick game that we can use in our everyday lives. Y'all do thorough research. Come bring us the information. We should be tight than y'all. Not somebody that's talking about accept our hell on earth because we're gonna go get pearly gates and go to heaven when we die. No, excuse me, unalive. Excuse me. Know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Tight to y'all. That's what we should be doing. Tight to people like y'all, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to hear nothing about after I'm unalive. I want to hear about how to fix things now to make it heaven down here now. You know what I'm talking about? And I'm going to land with that, man. Thanks for having me up. Y'all keep up the good work, man.
All right, appreciate that, brother. Appreciate that. Okay, let's get to Amani.
I just wanted to make a couple comments on Sunflower's points. First of all, I wanted to come from the standpoint of I thought the skit was funny. I, like most of us, was raised in the church. We are more accustomed to mega churches these days than back when we were going to church in the 90s or even probably some of y'all like the 80s and stuff like that. Mega churches are more popular now. However, the couple of points that I wanted to make was that we're having like two separate conversations here. We're having a conversation about the business side of churches and nonprofits, but then we're also having a conversation about, like the philosophical side of churches and why they spread the way that they spread. Especially in the Black community, I really think that it's a problem not with just churches, but nonprofits in general, where we're kind of making our own individual efforts to the cause that we care about, instead of collaborating. So Sunflower made a point earlier about how churches are popping up on corners where there's a lot of addiction, there's a lot of rug use, and different things like that, or liquor stores and all those type of things, which is true, but also because when you have those conversations, you kind of have to think about like the business side of churches. Yes, those, you can't really fault people for looking for deeper meaning, right? You can't fault people in life, this is why people gravitate towards religion in general, if it's not like indoctrinating you from birth, right? And then also on the business side, of course, it's a strategic move to open up churches in those neighborhoods, because those are the people that are searching for deeper meanings to life. I do also think that when we're talking about the neighborhoods that are more affluent and have people that are making, in the 10% and 15% of income in our country, they more often do collaborate their efforts. There are some small town pastors that have like one room church houses and stuff, but they also are opening up mega churches as well. So I just wanted to hit on that. There are two separate conversations here happening about the money side of church, but then also the philosophical side of why people gravitate towards religion.
Okay. Now, and I said this earlier, that this was not supposed to be a take. This conversation is less of a take on people's belief in Christianity, and it's more of a take on how the modern day mega churches are operating versus how the churches should operate. So I'm glad that you were able to kind of circle back to that, because there are some people who, when they hear anything about a church, they are like, oh man, he's talking about Christianity, I'm not going to listen to it. But that's not what we're doing here. So
Can I add one more thing, and then I'll go off my soapbox since you clarified the conversation. I do believe that mega churches today do serve a purpose because they are able to have the resources and things to reach the masses. I also do think, though, that on the business side, like some nonprofits, are shady with their money. So when your half of your business structure is to development and bringing in funds, of course they're going to be asking their congregation to, for one, help with that, just like any other nonprofit would. But I don't think they're as accountable to boards and different structures like some other nonprofits are accountable to. But that's the point that I wanted to make. If you look at the business side of the nonprofits, the money, if you look at any nonprofit, just like a church, they have money issues a lot of times, but also that the money is not always as traceable as a for-profit business for certain reasons, like who they're accountable to.
okay, all right then, I got you.
All right, can I say something?
Real quick, hold on, real quick. ZZ, do you see BX in a chat?
Yeah, I'm like, is she gonna come up here?
I'm waiting.
I see her. Yeah.
I see her typing in the chat, but I don't see her in like the guest list thing. I don't see her. Not only do I not see her requested, I don't see her at all. I've been scrolling through. I don't see her at all. I don't know if you requested her or what's going on.
I don't see her either. What's going on? That's why your ass need to be here on time, bitch. On time.
I didn't request it, but I don't see you in the room. Okay, we'll work that out. We'll keep the conversation flowing, and we'll work that out. Amani, I'm gonna ask you. Okay, thank you.
You can drop me to add her.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I still think I should see you in the room. I don't even see her in the room. That's the thing. I literally don't. Okay, there you go.
They in her box. She said they in my box.
My page is private. Y'all won't see me.
I don't see you. We're friends though. I know,
but my page is still private. You won't see me unless I request or if I type.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, I didn't know that.
Neither. Good to see you. Well, good to hear from you.
Good to see you. Good to hear from you too. Afro, I didn't call you back, Afro. I don't understand this lie. I say, Afro, if you call me or message me, Don't just immediately go live. Wait till I
Yes,
answer.
I called you a few times. Okay, I
Yeah,
called you a few times,
well,
and I text, and I waited a minute too.
I love
I
y'all
called you
too
a
in
few
the chat.
times
I
now.
love y'all too. Our people, right?
Hmm.
They're a headache in itself. So I needed a nap, and then I had a Zoom call, and then I had technical difficulties. So I'm kind of cranky, but it's a nice vibe in here. Like one live
Hmm.
I had to go in the other day, and I had to drop somebody from the chat and wound up telling her off. But I come in here, and it's a pretty cool vibe, so I feel a little better. I
Yeah,
do, I
we've been
do.
having a pretty
Stuff happens.
mature conversation so far. We've been having a
Yeah.
really mature conversation about this. You know,
Tell me about Drewski. I don't pay
well,
attention to the celebrities.
to summarize, Druski, he makes skits and stuff, and he made this one skit about a pastor, and he's up on, like, I forgot what the thing is called, but he's like hanging from the ceiling, and he's asking the congregation for donations and all that stuff, and people throwing money, and he got like kind of like fireworks and stuff like that, confetti popping up all over the place, and some people felt some type of way about that, but the conversation we've been having thus far is like, we feel like this kind of accurately reflects how a lot of churches are today. And then now we're having a conversation of how should the church operate? How should pastors operate? Is this a good reflection of pastors in churches and mega churches in particular? So that's the conversation we've been having.
Okay, yeah. Drewski is a comedian, and I don't know what's up with this. I'm not gonna say this generation, like those people of a certain age group, but this time period, this era, they would have cried with Eddie Murphy, Bernie Mac. Like
Mm.
we just chalked it up to comedy, but a lot of people are very sensitive. They don't like this comedy, they don't like that comedy. Now some things can be over the top, but the mega churches, let's not forget Mr. Creflo Dollar and his jet. Meanwhile, his congregation was probably at a bus stop or some mess, or broke down hoopty, as we call it. So if you don't want people talking or laughing about you, stop giving them ammunition. And that's just where I'm at with it today. Some of the mega churches are over the top. I didn't see it, so I'm just going off of what I heard. I can see how it would be offensive to like our church going members and stuff like that. But me,
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. That's just my thought right now because I haven't seen the highlights, so it's based off of that afro.
Yeah, the conversation has been pretty good so far. You know,
Good. Yeah.
I think the next speaker was Blitz the Conqueror.
What's up, bro? What's
How
up?
you doing? How you doing?
So yeah, my opinion on this all is I just wish people generally, specifically black people, since the conversation, would just learn how to think for themselves and stop putting these people on pedestals. I mean, at the end of the day, church, the pastors, all
Yeah,
regular people. I don't
yeah.
think these people
Omani,
should be
stay up for 1 second. After he's done, I'm gonna ask you a question. Go ahead.
I
Yeah.
don't think they should be put in positions to where they feel as if they have authority over anything. Because at the end of the day, you're a regular person, and I mean, I'm not in the Bible. It doesn't really say anything about pastors. Anybody can be a pastor, a regular person. Technically, everybody is supposed to preach the word. So I think this is all just societal norms that have been placed upon people. I mean, that's in it. Literally says if two people gather in the name of Jesus, then he is present. So a church can be anywhere. Once again, this is all societal norms, and people just can't actually think for themselves. People are so used to going with the status quo of society. Me personally, I don't think church is actually a necessary thing. These pastors are normal people. So we stop expecting so much out of regular humans, and I don't think it will be an issue. Me personally, I have no issue with the skit. I have it. It made me feel nothing because I don't put these people on pedestals. I don't expect anything out of these people because I know that they are regular human beings. And I mean, everything when it comes down to it, if you're not going to take it directly from the Bible, you're going to take it from people, then you're just openly opening yourself up to deception at the end of the day. Because the Bible, once again, it says nothing about somebody being a pastor. Anybody can be a pastor. You don't have to be appointed or be some type of pope or anything like that. It's simple and about just the giving tithes. Like you can paying your tithes doesn't have to be specifically to a church. It can be to just giving cheerfully to anyone who is in need with just proportion of your income. All you have to do is give cheerfully. It says nothing about giving to a church. It says nothing about even having churches in the Bible. So I mean, like I said before, this is all, if people of today would learn how to think for themselves and actually do their own research and not just go off of what other people are saying, then it will be less of an issue. But nobody does that in this day and age. And everybody's like a bot who just goes off what they see on TikTok and Instagram at this point. I'm just chatting because you're a bot.
All
But
right.
okay.
All right. Well, okay. And when we just got to respect other people's opinions. There's people who have differences of opinions in the chat room, but it's okay. It's okay. Amani, I want to ask Amani a question, but to that point, I mean, let's be honest. The whole thing of a church has to be millions and millions of dollars. No, not really. No, it doesn't. But Amani, I want to ask you a question. As far as the Drewski skit and people saying he's mocking mega churches and all that, and you elaborated on the business aspect of it. Now, earlier in this live, we said that there is a business aspect of running anything. There's always going to be a business. There's always going to be checks and balances. It's always going to be somebody who's going to be the accountant, somebody who's going to be responsible for this. So it's always a business aspect to it. Where do you think the line is, or do you think there is a line between pastors benefiting from like a business perspective and the church benefiting from a business perspective, or the church exploiting the congregation?
I personally think that their input should equal their output. So, like, say they do have a congregation of, 5,000 people, right? I don't even know if that's a large or small number when it comes to these mega churches nowadays. But if they have a congregation of 5,000 people, they have a couple of different housing projects that they're working on, which I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we have a couple mega churches here now that are more gearing towards it. So I'm kind of using that as an example in my mind of how a mega church does it right. They have produced housing for single mothers that they don't even have to pay rent for like the first 6 months or something like that, and it's open to like hundreds of people in their congregation. So I think that if their output into the community matches the input of funds, it's okay for the pastor to make a salary. Our pastors have to be paid for the work that they're doing. Our the secretaries and the even down to the security at the front door. I do believe that they should be getting paid to do the work that they're doing, just like any other nonprofit. Now, then it goes to say, do we believe a pastor should be a millionaire? Again, if their output, in my opinion, is matching the monies that is coming in, I think that their salary should absolutely be a percentage of that. So I'll land there.
All right. Okay. All right. That's fair. And I said this before. I'm not saying that pastors should be broke. I don't think pastors should be broke, or the ushers, or as a security. I don't think that. I mean, no. People take time out of their day. People do have to pay bills.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't just expect somebody to preach and be a pastor for free. Who's going to do that forever? People got responsibilities. Pastors, they do. Everybody in the church who's involved in the church, they do. But I do think that this conversation is pretty mature. I like this panel so far because we're having the mature conversation about the line of fairness in exploitation, I think. So let's go to Yes Queen.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think this is a wonderful conversation too. Thank you for letting me participate. I agree with everything everyone has said on the panel so far. I would like to offer a little tiny bit of a different perspective. Because of the corruption that is in the church, it has turned so many people off from going to church. And I really think that that is a shame because our people are not going to church in mass numbers like we were when it was the civil rights movement, or even the 80s or 90s, like the young lady said. Our people have lost something from not going to church. That learning that order that the church provides, learning even the definitely the scriptures, not knowing the scriptures, um, not knowing about a lot of musicianship, playing music, singing like we used to. We are losing that as a people, and I do feel this because we don't attend church in large numbers like that, because we don't want to be indoctrinated, because we don't want to experience corruption. And also with our movement as far as being foundational Black Americans, um, we are, many of the issues that we would like to tackle in our community, like having our youth being properly directed, marriage in our community. I think it's a correlation between us not attending, not wanting that indoctrination, but we're still losing something that we desperately need in our community. So thank you very much. That's all I have to say.
Mm. Well, thank you. And I do think that, this is why this conversation right here is important, because I asked this question earlier. Do you think that mega churches or pastors walking around pretty much dressed like they're about to go to an award show, do you think that that reflects just the imagery of that, the optics of that? Do you think that that reflects poorly or positively on the church? And in a lot of people's opinion, that reflects pretty negatively, because it makes church and really Christianity in general kind of look like something uh almost like a scam. It makes church look like a scam, and it turns people away from going to church when they see people who are so popular, who have so much fame and notoriety, literally exploiting people through Christianity.
Can I
It
say?
makes people be all like, yeah, I'm not for the indoctrination of it, you know. So it has a negative effect even on the smaller churches, because you have pastors who don't do that stuff, but then you will have people who are turned off from going to church, period, because they see stuff like this on the TVs and stuff.
To a degree, I kind of think, because I like what the sister said before about how the pastor should reflect, like their work should reflect how much they have, as long as what they're putting out is equivalent to what they're getting in. But honestly, I don't know. I kind of feel like the pastor should reflect the church, reflect the community in which the church is in. So if you're in a poor neighborhood, the pastor shouldn't be living 17 miles away, you know what I'm saying, in a rich neighborhood, and he's going over to the south side, and like that don't make sense to me for you to be a millionaire and your congregation is living below poverty. You know what I'm saying? But if you're a millionaire and your congregation, most of your congregation is millionaires because your church is in Beverly Hills, something like that makes a little more sense, for that to be the reflection. But it just doesn't feel right. But even in that, if you are in that sort of community, it's like I just feel like for pastors there should be a level of humility, of humbleness, of just grounded, that you like, that you want to represent a reachable image of godlyhood. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you being you don't need I don't see a reason for a pastor to need a Rolls Royce, a Rolex, a big ass chain, a 17-room mansion with 3 kids. Like, it's like, even if you have it, there should be a level of humility there that you don't have to show. You don't have to showboat it in every way possible. Like, you can have some savings, you can have some trust fund babies, put it to the side, put it into the community as much as you can. But if you are well off like that, because some people do, follow their careers. You could have been a doctor for a long period of time, retired, and then became a pastor, so you could have already been well off, and that's fine. But there shouldn't be so much it should be so grand that it's like obvious, like what Drewski was showing inside the skit. So I think that it's just a balance. It doesn't have to be so extreme with, with the pastors, like Drewski with all the chains and the Christian Dior. Like that's not necessary for you to still be well off, and not, that not look like you're impoverished. You know what I'm saying? Trying to blend in or anything like that. But you don't have to be so showboatish either.
Mm. I feel like that's a fair point too.
Me
I mean,
personally,
should the pastor or the church reflect the congregation? If the congregation's making, $1 million annually, you know what I'm saying, then maybe the church is probably going to be bigger. Maybe the pastor's going to have a little bit more money. But if, in an average rural income, the average person is not making $1 million annually. So
Right.
should the pastor be sitting up there driving the church in a Rolls Royce, in an Aston Martin? You know what I'm saying? And where does that line, and this is what I said too about the reflection. Does the optics of a pastor and his wife walking into church like they're on the red carpet, are those good optics?
Right.
Are those the optics of somebody godly? You know what I'm saying? The
so I don't.
pastor got a Rolex on. Is that like
So
and then preaching, and I'm not saying you can't have a Rolex and be a Christian. I'm asking, are those the best optics?
Right.
I
To
don't think
say
there's
I'm
nothing
preaching the word
wrong
of
with.
God and you got Ray-Bans on, like you know what I'm saying?
I don't think there's nothing
Where's
wrong
that
with
line?
that. I don't know where this. This I be saying it's all just societal norms because I don't really know what's wrong with a pastor. I mean, having a nice suit on or anything like that. I mean, it literally just says give in proportion to your income. So as long as they're just giving to the community and giving back, me personally, I don't see nothing wrong with that. Like I said before, when it comes to this church thing, and a church is supposed to be a building used for public Christian worship. Technically, a pastor was never supposed to be a job. It was never supposed to be something that wage was accepted for. But it's just the society we live in. So everything is turned into a opportunity for revenue. So me personally, in the Bible, my opinion, it literally says the church is just a community of believers who confess Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. So the word church just means an assembly of people. In the Bible, it tells you where two or more are gathered in his name, he is among them. So a church can be anywhere or any place. Like I said, this is all just it's societal norms and what we have been accustomed and that we feel is a normality. But that doesn't mean we have to continue abiding by what we have been, I would say, indoctrinated to believe is supposed to be the form of a church. A church can be you just getting with your group of friends, 5 people, you guys sit at home, and then you read the Bible. That's a church. That's you getting in the name of God. These pastors are normal people. So just because a pastor has a nice suit on and a watch doesn't mean he's a bad pastor. Doesn't mean he's not reading the Bible. It just means that's his obligation, his prerogative, how he wants to look. I don't really have an issue with it as long as he's a good faith person, as long as he's humble. Like, I don't know why what's wrong? When do we start attaching, I would say, poorness to people who are pastors or people who will preach? Why do you have to look poor in order to be a pastor? Like I said before, anybody can be a pastor. So it's like, technically, everybody's supposed to preach the word. You're not supposed to wait around and wait for a pastor for you to
Well,
give
for the sake of
a word in.
time, because we got to be fair and let other people go ahead. What I'm talking about, and I've said this a few times in a live. I don't think that pastor should be poor. I don't think that because you're a pastor means you are supposed to be poor. But for instance, Dr. King didn't look poor, but he wasn't making millions of dollars and driving home in a Cadillac either. You know what I'm saying? And he had millions of people who were following him. You don't have to, it's not even about looking poor or even having the money. But I think, as Easy said, like showboating it, having it off, almost flexing it, I
Yeah,
think is
I
the
agree with
thing
that.
that people aren't really liking.
Yeah, flexing. Flexing. I mean, I guess you could say that's not a humble. When it gets into like a pride-ish thing, that's when I understand what you're saying.
Mm.
But at the same time, I don't think these people, like I said before, I'm not saying I'm against churches, because I mean, if you wherever you're gonna worship, just do you. But me personally, I'm just trying to give a different perspective. I'm not trying to keep saying the same thing over and over again, and what everybody else has just been telling you.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. I respect that. Let's get to the
Can
next
I make a
speaker.
disclaimer?
You said what? What happened?
Can I make a disclaimer?
Okay.
Yeah. So the topic is mega churches as opposed to community churches, right? Because there's some churches that do pray. We just brought this up the other day, and an elder said, tell the church to keep their hands off my money. It's come to our attention that some churches have ATMs. So we want to kind of stay away from those type of churches. But then I have met people also who say their pastors are amazing. They help the community. I'm not sure if it's with food or, a bill here and there. There have been churches, you be a member all your life, and when you transition, they won't even give you a discount on the funeral services. I think for the most part, if you're in the urban areas, like such as New York, I'm from a time where the churches fed people. I remember me and my granny traveling to Harlem, and you see the church mothers, or you go into one of the churches down there, and they were back there just cooking. There were soup kitchens. There were all type of things we had in the churches. But over time, you find now the churches are primarily in rundown areas, and the liquor store next to them, and so the church has lost some of its social standing, right? And the premise of a church is to help its congregation, to help each other. And no, a pastor doesn't have to be poor, but he doesn't have to be flashy. So I just want to say that some churches are still holding on to the purpose of helping community. We just don't hear about them unless we in these type of discussions. But there are ones who prey on the people, and the elders are asking for protection from the what you call them, poverty pastors or poverty pimp pastors, because it's their social securities that's under attack, like their funding. Their income.
Hmm.
That's all. I just wanted to contribute that
Hmm.
while we were on the topic.
I think
Yeah,
that's important. Thank you, BX. I appreciate that.
you're welcome.
All right. Yeah, and this is a nuanced conversation, and I like the maturity of people who've come up here and spoken on it. Let's get to 909.
Halito. Powerful afternoon, people. Thank you for allowing me on your panel. In my opinion, Drewski is not wrong. At one point, our comedians from back in the day, before they have been infiltrated, before they were taught by money, before they had the big fame, a lot of our comedians would reflect the status, the window into the hood, or window into the ghettos, or we would want to call it. So a lot of times back in the day when we heard truth, we accepted it and we adjusted or we moved accordingly. Nowadays, everything is on the internet. Of course, there's a lot more mass attention and whatever not, to where people are offended by the truth. This is one of those examples where the truth is offensive to people when it's calling you out. I genuinely believe that people are mad at Druski, but not mad at their church for him being accurate on this said skit. This skit is accurate because a lot of us can identify of seeing this, even if it's not your church or individually your experience with that. A lot of us can identify that this is what goes on in the churches, to where one of the ladies said that this is what turns us off when it comes to church and when it comes to the ideal of religion, because you're exploiting your congregation. You should not, as a pastor, at one point, my family owned this church in California. My pastor had a job and he was a pastor on his free time. So a lot of times now these pastors are being supported by their congregation. Their lifestyle is being supported by their congregation. And I think that's a problem. You as a pastor should not be, your lifestyle should not be supported by the congregation. Now, if you have overflow of funds and your church is very wealthy to where you guys are getting these funds and donation, whatever or not, that should be a reflection in the community. The community should be a reflection of the church. And a lot of times, if you look around the churches around these communities, they don't reflect that. You're driving a Bentley, you're driving a Rolls Royce, you have a mansion and you live off in the suburbs, but yet your congregation is in the poorest of poorest areas. So if anything, around your church, you being a tax-free LLC, that's what most churches are, they're tax-free. Or if they're tax exempt. So if they have that power, why isn't that reflected on the congregation or the community? You can easily start programs. You can start a lot of things to where you can give back in a manner to where you're not showing it. And I guess for me, it's materialistic. You are showing up to be in a fashion show. You have Christian Dior on, you have a Rolex. And again, that doesn't mean that you can't have these things, but if these things are being supported from your congregation, that's a problem. I'll end there.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that reflects what Zizi had said earlier. Like if you were a doctor or something like that, if you had a business and you were a multimillionaire before you became a pastor, nobody's expecting you to completely empty your bank account to be a pastor. And I don't think that's fair to ask, for you to empty your bank account and live on minimum means. I don't think, and eat one meal a day and live under a tent. I don't think that that's a fair request to ask for a pastor. But when we see pastors who are asking for donations for their own benefit, they're asking for donations so they can afford a new jet. There was one pastor I saw in the video. His name is Kenneth Copeland. Kenneth Copeland. And he was saying he's in the church. He's all like, people are mad that I got a jet. Well, let me tell you something. I got two. This guy got two jets.
Yeah,
He has
Kenneth,
two jets.
Kenneth
Just
Copeland
arrogant
is a
about it.
literal deceiver, and he is. I don't want to call him, but he is the closest thing to a devil that I think I have seen. Me personally, I think there are people. The Bible said it would be deceivers. So I'm just saying, like, once again, people who
But hold on, brother. We gotta let some other people go ahead.
Ken, I'm about to look him up. I feel like I need to see what he look like.
there's
He's
plenty
YT,
videos
so
on that.
Let's get to
There, one more thing.
one last thing, and then we're gonna get to our sister
Absolutely.
Sandra.
Like I mentioned before, most churches are tax exempt. So if the pastor were to start programs, start things to where he could benefit, and again, it's not even about him benefiting. It should be for his congregation. It should be for his community. When you start to literally indulge into that materialism, that's showing you that you are literally lost sight of what the word is supposed to be for. Again, your lifestyle should be something outside of the church. Your lifestyle should not be supported and hinged on what the congregation gives you. I'll end there.
All right. Okay. Well. All right. Now I appreciate that. Let's get to Chandra. You got it.
Hey family, what's up? Won't he do it?
Well, how
Won't
you
he
doing?
do it? I love that skit that Drewski did. I loved it. It was right on target. If people are offended by it, they have something to look to internally why they're offended by it, right? I had two uncles that were preachers, right? One was Pentecostal, one was Baptist. Those were the most insufferable men that I had ever been around in my life, okay? I was spiritually abused as a a young, impressionable, teenager growing up in the church, because all the stuff that they were doing, all that showboating they were doing, all that pride, all of this, chastising people in the congregation, I sat up under that for a long time. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't until that I could actually had enough time where I could sit with my Bible and actually read what the word says. I realized these people are wannabe cult leaders. It's a cult. And basically, they have tethered on to what real Christianity is, co-opted it, flipped it around, and changed it into something that it was never meant to be. I still read my Bible. I cannot go into somebody's church when I automatically know just by looking at them that the vibes are off. And it's a shame, because I feel like real Christianity, following the real teachings of Jesus has really helped our people in our community since we even landed in this country. You know what I'm saying? Truth be told, it wasn't until some northerner pastors saw, the conditions of us in slavery. They actually try to give us the Bible, try to teach us the word. And I feel like ultimately it was our spiritual, awakening helped us to obtain our freedom. But now it's been all co-opted, it's been marketed to us. And it's just really a shame because there are times, when we need comfort, we need, support, and we can't go to what was traditionally in our community for that. It's like they've taken away another third space. You know what I'm saying? And these cult leaders with all this charisma and, personality that they got and all these motivational speeches that they give, they have really fooled people into supporting their lifestyle. But like Cat Williams said, things are going to be exposed. And I feel like this was Jesus' way of taking a whip, putting it together, and going through the temple and chasing the people out when Drewski did this skit. Because if you're offended by it, you need to look in the mirror and ask why.
All right, yeah. I think it does reflect on you. If you feel some type of way about it, why do you feel some type of way? Why do you feel some type of way about it? We're BSO. Let's get to Trelanda. You got it.
Hey now,
How you doing?
how you doing? I just wanted to say something real quick. Um, Kind of centering on my mom and how I grew up in as a Baptist. You know, my mom, once we moved from her hometown to the city, she didn't take us to church, but I always went to church with my granny and family and stuff like that. But she never really went. But I didn't question it at first until there was the Jet magazine that had Reverend Ike on it. And I was sitting there saying, oh, I want to go to a rich church. And she went off. And ever since then, I always question religion, even though I enjoy the singing, everything like that. But I understood my mom had a standard, and she didn't condition me to go against. She conditioned me to question what was going on. And I thank her for that. And that's why I can see when I looked at Juicy, I was like, yep, it really go down like that. Even though I did experience like in the 70s church when it was real pure, but I think it changed when Reverend Ike hit the scene and it was about that money on, it was over because what was that one show with the white man? What was it? The something club,
The something.
this club, the 1-800. You remember the he used to talk about religious stuff in the morning. My mom did have that on TV. And I questioned that because she did. It was like she was training me to question religion, but at the same time, understand there is a God. But it ain't about money, and that's all I have to say.
All right. Look, I think you're talking about the 700 Club.
Yeah, the seven that
Okay,
used to be on
okay,
while
let
my mom was getting dressed in the morning. And she made me question Benny Hill when they was trying to heal people because I was like, oh, let's do that. And she was like, no, that's fake. She was like,
Mm.
training me, but not let me enjoy going to the church, the singing, the vacation Bible camp. She always let me go to every summer. Whether it was white or black. I went to vacation Bible school, and she didn't stop none of that. And she was the one that hooked it up in the first place. I'm 8. You know what I'm saying? But she would not go. And to this day, I don't know what it was, but she only went to church in her hometown with my grandma on Easter or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Or
Mm.
funeral. That was it. But she didn't keep me from knowing God, but she put it in me to question the people
Oh,
and what the goal, you get what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like I said, when that Reverend Ike, I think he was on Jet magazine or something like that, and I was a kid. And I was like, oh, the Reams, look what he doing. He a preacher. I was like, I want to go to his church. And when I say she broke me down with things I couldn't understand till 20 years later, that's what she was. That's what she put in me. So when I look at the Drewski skit, I get it. I get it, and that's all I want to say. Hey,
Yeah,
BX.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
All right.
Oh, drop me, okay? I'm gonna chill in the comments.
Okay, I got you.
Okay, thank you.
Atalanta.
All right. Cool. We're gonna get to my brother Cole Chief.
Hey there, brother. How you doing? B1.
I'm good, brother. How you doing? Talk to me, brother.
I'm
Talk to
good,
me.
man. I was just listening in. Hey, man. You know, the young lady, she already addressed one of the things I was gonna say. Cause I was gonna ask you, like, say for instance, a dude was real fly. I'm talking about a flea dude, and then became a reverend. He shouldn't dress down. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he should dress down if that's just what he was always about. You know what I'm saying? Now, I know 5 preachers that I grew up with, and I don't know if these are any good numbers, but every single last one of them was some greasy mugs before they became preachers. You know what I'm saying? Now, we have a situation in a community as far as we look to different people as leaders. You dig what I'm saying? That's why I so appreciate the FBA, how we stand on. We ride with the code. Hey, this what I want to say. Afro, you got to excuse me, man. It's some people out here close to my car who putting a ticket on my shit, so who's throwing my head off. Hey, look,
Yeah, handle your business.
yeah, I'm gonna come right back. I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
Handle your business. Oh man.
They better run. Stop there. Hey.
Okay, we'll let him take care of it.
You gotta handle that. Oh, boy.
All right now. And we'll wait for him to come back. We'll get to basic. Brother, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, y'all? How everybody doing?
Pretty good.
All right. So, I mean, of course, the Drewski thing, it was funny to me. I think if you black and you were offended by that, then we would have to check your background, because Black Americans, we've been making fun of the church and pastors for a long time. You know what I'm saying? Like in movies, and you watched Martin. You know, you had Reverend Leon Lunny Love. You had the Reverend in Don't Be a Menace. You had Mike Epps in a lottery ticket. So this ain't nothing new. So I'm actually shocked that people like feel some type of way, especially from the simple fact that if there was no truth to it, it wouldn't have been funny. You know what I'm saying? Like, the thing about comedy is it's really funny when a comedian is like spot on with something that we all know is true. And the church is actually easy as hell. Like, the church is real easy to make fun of because they give you so much material. Like, these pastors come in there dressed up all weird. They be doing all types of weird stuff. I saw a pastor who was running around and hitting people with his coat, and I guess he was blessing them and they was passing. It's all types of stuff. Like, I could make a skit just off of a dude having a super trench coat knocking people out. So, you know, like, y'all bring these cameras into these churches, you blast it everywhere, and you think people not supposed to have no type of reaction to what they seeing, because it wasn't always like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I went to church, I didn't see half the stuff I be seeing now. So it seems like they just being way more performative as far as the pastors and the money that they making. I got to see like some numbers firsthand from what these churches be making, and it blew my mind. They make more than I actually thought, because this wasn't even a mega church and they was bringing in millions. And where I live, I'm in a black city. I'm in Memphis, Tennessee. And if you come to like one of the black neighborhoods here in Memphis, man, you could literally run into about 4 or 5 churches in one neighborhood. So if y'all bringing in that type of money and it's that many churches and these neighborhoods look like shit, like, bro, what are we even talking about? So I understand everybody want to think that they pastor different, but ain't none of y'all pastors making no difference, because the people that's coming to them churches can't afford was what the pastors can afford. And I know for a fact that a lot of these pastors, before they even get the position of pastor at these churches, they done already negotiated a whole contract. Like it's all business. You know what I'm saying? Like these folks can't act like it ain't about money when it is. These folks ain't going to a church unless they making a certain amount. It ain't about no gospel. It ain't about nothing. It's about their money. So, don't get mad at us for actually seeing how corrupt Christianity is. And that's just the truth. You know what I'm saying? Is it most of Christianity? Is it not most of it? I don't know. I can just tell you that it seems like most of it is corrupt to me. Most of these pastors is full of it to me. And the black community been given 10% at least for decades. And I can't really tell you much that the black churches have done for our neighborhoods, because I don't see no big difference. If you making that type of money, not getting taxed, and you getting it consistently for this long, the black community should not look the way that they look and still. And I land there.
All right, I think that's what's on everybody's mind. How is the church's progress or income reflected in the community? Now, it'd be one thing if the church was barely keeping the lights on, but some of these churches is doing pretty good, really good. Like when you actually like look at the numbers, and it's tax exempt, so it's like, okay, how does this now reflect on the community? Because think about it like this: if a church is not positively affecting the community, what does that say about the church? And what does that say about the message of the church and the purpose of that? Because a church is there for the congregation, but it's also supposed to be there to strengthen and empower the community, to be an embetterment of the community. If it's not doing that, and if it's just there for a select amount of people, what does that say? How does that reflect on the church? These are fair questions. I'm not trying to bash anybody in particular, but these are pretty fair questions that people have been asking for a while now. And it's time for us to have an honest, candid conversation about it.
Something high basic. That was bars, Afro. He said, everybody wants to think their pastor is different, but their pastor ain't really making a difference, That was bars.
That's so true.
Thank you.
I don't think.
But
There's truth to the fact that anytime you talk about somebody's pastor, they're automatically going to get defensive. Nobody is going to admit that their pastor is corrupt. Nobody's going to admit that. Everybody's going to say their pastor is a God-fearing man. Their pastor is on the up and up. Their pastor is doing everything the way they're supposed. Everybody's going to say that. Clearly, everybody's pastor is not doing the right thing. So let's be honest. There are some people who believe in fake pastors. However, does that mean all pastors are fake? No. So there's some nuance to it.
I just want to say that, when you grow up in the church and you have family members that are supposed to be, prophetesses and all this other stuff, and you see how these people live because you're related to them, it does give you a new perspective on what I consider to be a grift. A lot of it is a grift. A lot of it is money laundering. A lot of it is, this is my way of feeling important and not having to work a real job so I can have my lifestyle supported,
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you actually do read the New Testament and, the Bible, and see how the original church people lived, it wasn't all of this, designer clothing, fancy luxury cars and jets. It just wasn't that, But the thing about it is the people that are in these congregations, they aspire to that type of lifestyle too. So that's why they are brainwashed, but willing to give their money because they want that same lifestyle that pastor is living before them. Now, I'm not saying you should be broke and be a pastor. I'm not saying that, but they're taking so much of this money and putting into a lifestyle instead of their actual community. And if they would have just done the things that was needed in the community and not worried about their so-called lifestyle, showing it, showboating, we would be much further along as a whole collective community in this country. I'm talking about Black folks. We would
So
be so much further down the road than what we are now if they would have just done the right thing. But they don't, because they get addicted to that lifestyle. And the more they, get, the better they live, the more they want. I've had pastors try to prophesy over me like, oh, you're going to be a millionaire. And in my mind, I'm like, how in the world are you going to tell me I'm going to be a millionaire? That's not even something that I actually want. You know what I'm saying? But because, they're put on a pedestal, and they talk about how much authority they have, how much spiritual authority, taking the scriptures and actually, zip tying them together to mean something that it don't mean, they have people brainwashed. It's very hard for me to walk into a church because of what I went through growing up with these people being my relatives. And I land.
I'm sorry to hear that, but hey, that's a lot of that is true. There's a lot of people who do live vicariously through other people. And that's a conversation a lot of people are not comfortable having, but we do have to have that. You don't have a Rolls Royce, so but you can help somebody else get it, and you kind of feel like you've accomplished something through somebody else. And they do that with celebrities, they do that with pastors. So that's a conversation that can go kind of deep that a lot of people feel uncomfortable with. Let's get to the next speaker though. Let's get to Black issues.
how you doing, brother? How you doing? Top of the new year to you too, brother.
Thank you, brother. How you doing?
Doing well. My two favorite pastors. One was, as far as actors, was Flip Wilson. He was a good judge, and Arsenio Hall in Coming to America. Those were some funny pastors to me. But therein lies the problem with the pastors, because see, down south they call them pastor. Pastor this, pastor that, and I'm gonna tell you, you can't talk about some people's pastor, man. They be ready to lynch you because a lot of people tend to, like you say, live vicariously, but not only vicariously, they live with putting people on a pedestal, like as though they are some deity to the Most High, and a lot of people deify their pastors like as though he is the Most High himself. And I think therein lies the problem there, because they start to uh, look at him more greater than the Most High, where that happened in the gates of Zion with the Most High, and hence he sent Lucifer to the earth. But you know, the thing that Drewski did, man, it's just funny. And a lot of these pork chop preachers out here, man, they feel some type of way because he's shining a light on them that that was already shining on him, but not as bright, because he's a big influencer and a celebrity in the YouTube world, and so I think that kind of made them feel some way, and also starting to reel as far as how they do their business. Because most of them, it's all charlatans, man. Most of these cats ain't nothing but charlatans and pimps. And that's why a lot of your pastors were ex-pimps. A lot of your pastors were guys who were ex-convicts. And then you have some that came, the right way through divinity school and all that. But, they get into the money factor of it all. They start to see how the money is. Like up here in D.C., you got a lot of churches that's near liquor stores. And, what I mean? It's all a big grip. It's all a big, charlatan move, man.
Mm.
That's it.
All right. Well, I mean, that's what a lot of people think. Let's get to the next. We got a couple more people who haven't spoken yet. Let's get to God, FBA the Moor.
Hey, what's up, brother Afro? Love and light to the panel.
How you doing? How you doing?
Oh, spectacular, man. Thanks for asking. I just wanted to say something real quick, man. They got an issue with Drewski for cracking a joke. Well, they don't have an issue with all these pastors, the popes, the cardinals, and all that stuff who've been touching these kids for decades and stuff like that. They should have an issue with that instead of Drewski.
Yeah, that should. That's a much bigger concern, right? It's a much bigger issue.
Absolutely.
It's an important question. I mean, it says a lot about you if you saw this and you got offended by it. It says a lot about you. I think there's some self improvement and
Should get
self
mad
reflection you
about
need
any
to
of
do.
that.
Yeah, that's true. Let's get to appreciate you. Let's get to Ebony.
Well, hey, everybody. I'm a little different. The church is like a gym. If you don't have a membership, you don't get to use its benefits. And that's just how it is. The problem is we expect the church to do all this for the community. The church is there to keep you up, keep you going, motivate you, spiritually provide for you. They're not supposed to be paying your bills. And if that was the case, you realize the church would go broke trying to pay everybody. It's too many people in the Black community, the poor community, that would need its services. In addition to this, we don't have all this smoke for the Arabs that are in our community who give nothing back, not even spiritual messages. We don't have all this smoke for the Chinese that's in our community who has not only stole the nail business from us back in the 80s, but they're also providing food that's killing us. So
Can I
when we
can I
have this,
can
can
I
I
jump
finish?
in real just
Um,
I'm just saying that when you say that we're kind of deflecting.
Now, that's not deflecting, it's a fact. If you're not a
No,
member of the
no, it is,
church, why are
man,
we?
but it is deflecting though.
No, it's not.
Because if
Why
we
is
were
the church
talking
liable to pay your gas and electric
no,
bill?
I'm
Because
first off, I didn't say it was, but for you to say we don't have this smoke for the Chinese who are doing this in our
we
community, for
don't,
the
because we
Asians,
still support them.
okay.
We've been boycotting them.
That's a total other issue. First off, there's a lot less support of those businesses and institutions in the community, but that's another conversation. For you to say when we're talking about one conversation, and for you to say, well, we need to talk about something else. When people do that, they do that because they don't feel comfortable with the current conversation. So they want to pivot to something else to say, you know what we should be talking about is the Asian community. We should be talking about the Arabs. We should be talking about, okay, well, as much of a conversation as that needs to be had, what we're talking about right now is people who are putting themselves in a position of faith leaders, and the community feels like they're exploiting the community. So I just want to keep it focused on
But
where that
let me ask how many people on the panel go to church?
I don't.
I used to go
I
until I
Right,
saw
used
they was
to.
right.
I
fraudulent.
used
So
to.
you see, we have an
So no,
influx
I
of a
go to
lot of
church.
Black
Ma'am,
people
ma'am,
who
I've,
don't
I've been
even.
around people like you, for
Ma'am,
a
can I
majority of my
hold on,
finish?
life.
hold on.
No, no, no,
Let's
no,
let her
no.
go. Let's let her
Can
go.
I
And
finish my
Let's let her,
statement, please? You're
and
judging me. You're
it's not like
judging
not
me.
supposed to be like
You're
a gym.
judging
It's
me.
not
okay,
You're
supposed
hold
to be
on.
like a
judging
Let's
me,
let her
gym.
go.
ma'am.
Let's let her go, and because I got some things I want to respond to, but
All
we
right.
can have an
So,
open
so what
panel
I'm
and
saying
respect.
is, we're not even going. The Black community has fallen away from the church. So, therefore, most of the people. How can you have an opinion? Do you realize how? First of all, when any church uses a denominational name, they have to pay darn near $30,000 a year just to be underneath of that
Why
name.
is that? Why is there a fee associated with that?
Wait a
Hold on.
minute, because okay, wait a minute. Then you have to realize how much it costs to run a church. Even though they don't pay taxes, they still have to have insurance. They have commercial buildings are very expensive to afford. So it's not all the now you have those mega churches. Yes, I agree. The mega churches are making mad money. I agree. But
Do you
however, when
realize
you
the
talk,
early church met
Man,
in
hold
people's
on.
homes?
We gotta let her finish her point before we can fully address it.
but the little small little storefront churches in the community are not making all that money. Now, if your argument was with mega churches, I would agree. But little teeny small churches, they're not making no money. They have just enough to keep the building open.
That's facts.
Hmm.
Are you an elder? You don't have to say your exact same age, but
Yes,
we.
but you know who I am, BK. I've been in the room with you before. I just
Yeah, but I
changed my
never had
name.
to ask you if
Yes,
you
I'm
were an
57
elder.
years old.
Can I ask you this
Okay.
I'm
question? What do you
55.
Thank
I'm
you.
a
let me ask you
licensed
this because
beautician.
let me ask you, did you see the Drewski skit?
No, but I know that there was much talk about Jamal Bryant. But when Jamal Bryant was he was in Baltimore where I live, he did help the community. He did help the community. So I can understand when we talk about churches, I think that we should point out those who are participating in these actions. Call those people out. But to just say the church this and church that and bashing the church as an entity is wrong.
Well, that's not what I've been doing. I don't think most people here are doing that. I think that we are having an honest reflection of how modern day churches appear to the people. And a lot of modern day churches appear to the people a certain type of way because not all churches do this, but this type of behavior doesn't really get called out by any church. And
Well,
there's a
are
lot
you
of
looking
things
at,
that go on in
brother?
hold ma'am, but there's a lot of things that go on in churches that other churches don't make a point to address or call out or establish that they won't participate in that behavior. So I think that's what a lot of people are saying. Now, there's been a lot of people who've said that their pastor's been doing good, their church is doing good. So there's been a lot of people, church-going people, who've praised their church, but also were honest enough to say that, there are problematic churches that need to be addressed as well, too. So there's a nuance to the conversation. But I want to
Well,
get,
let's look at this is my last thing, and I'll land my plane. Let's look at the modern day people. Women didn't used to walk around showing half their bodies. Men didn't used to just sleep with women and not get married. Let's look at the modern day people. The church is right in effect with what the people are doing.
okay,
And so we couldn't,
no,
you
but
know,
the church, that's not what the church is supposed to be about, though. The
Exactly.
church is supposed to be about the word of God, and that's not supposed to update depending on the fashion of the people, though.
well, then you
Exactly.
should recognize who created the church, and then you'll
Ma'am,
see it's
okay,
we're doing
ma'am,
good.
because I feel like the goalpost keeps on moving.
Yeah, it does.
And I'm trying to be as respectful as possible, but the goalpost keeps on moving because are you trying to now say that people aren't worthy of a righteous church now? Is that what you're
No,
implying?
what I'm saying is we're still living in sin. We're talking about what the church do, but yet we're smoking, we're drinking, we're having unmarried mechs
As
and
true
everything else.
as that is,
So
ma'am,
let he
as
without
ma'am,
sin. All I want to say is let he without sin cast the first
ma'am,
stone,
I'm not,
and I'll
nobody's
land with
casting
that.
stone, ma'am. Okay. First off, all of these things that you just mentioned has always been going on. Oh, now you left? Now come
Hey,
on now.
Afro.
Yeah,
Now
she was
hold
a
on,
Afro.
hold on. Let me
brainwashed
just
cult
say this.
member.
Oh, let me just say this. I was very respectful. I was
You were.
incredibly respectful. She came here with a little hostility,
He
and
did.
I didn't let nobody cut her off. I let her speak, but nobody's bashing the church or Christianity. I'm done with it. I'm gonna be honest, ma'am, as respectful as I can be because you are an elder. That type of behavior is the issue.
Thank you. Amen. Uh
That
And
type
huh.
of
that's why people
behavior
don't
is the
go to
problem.
Right
church.
there. Exactly right there. What? Yes.
And
Yes.
always justifying their terrible behavior. When they do something wrong, say they did something wrong for goodness sake.
Hey,
I
Afro,
think
this is
the
something
issue
That's
very
is
why
important.
people
black
don't
One
feel
people.
minute,
comfortable.
y'all.
That's
One
why
minute.
people don't feel comfortable even bringing up anything with the church or anything like that because we have people in our families who behave just like that. The second they hear any type of criticism of the church, the second they hear any type of criticism of their pastor, they get into this defense attorney mode and
Hey,
they
Afro.
start moving the goalpost around. This is why people can't be honest. We're all sinners. People have been sinning for generations now. The church
Mm,
isn't supposed to change.
mm.
All right. All of the things that happen today were happening 100 years ago, 200, 300 years ago. That's not to mean that the church doesn't have to stay pious and righteous because the society doesn't do that.
The church is supposed to. I think the problem once
One
again is
minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, everybody, 1 minute. I think she came in a little bit late. We did give disclaimers. Not all churches. Some find good in their pastors. I think she missed that part. But I see Zizi has come off her mic, and I haven't heard from her in a while. She is the co-host, so I'm gonna get her on into the conversation. Go ahead, Zizi.
No, I'm just mad because I had to turn y'all down for a second. The last thing I heard that lady say was, "Well, what about women not wearing clothes and men sleeping around with each other?" Where the hell did she go? Did she crash out after that? What did she say? What was her point with
No,
that?
I would try to let her speak, and then she's like, "I'm done," and left the room.
Oh wow, damn! I wanted
She's
to see
in
what
the
she
room,
was.
She
but
was
she
just
left the panel. She's still in the room typing, but she left the panel.
Ah,
And
she
I
was just
also want to say
justifying the
this.
church
One
bad
minute, God.
behavior.
1 minute, God. FBA. Church is you come to church as you are, right? And that's where you can go for refuge. That's where you can go for help. You go there with while you're sinning, actually, right? At least that was always my thought. I can't lie. And even though I'm not a practicing Christian, Christianity was good for me when I was practicing it. But just like everything else, there's good, there's bad, in anything, right? Because for the good Christians, there's the triple K, right? There's the pastors, as God FBA mentioned, that touches people where they shouldn't be touched. There's adulterers. So we are allowed to talk about these issues, and we should not be offended by this. Me, I'm up here really calm, even though she started kind of spazzing at the end, you know. But we did issue disclaimers. We're allowed to talk about the church because the church is a representative of their congregation, and sometimes the congregation needs their church. Let's not forget all these pastors who are deemed as black leaders. They are trusting the church to speak for us, and the church has it wrong a lot of times. So, and there's the good church, the Deacons of Defense. They were very good for the community, stood up during our times of oppression, even battled the triple K. So we do understand there's good and bad in everything, and we're allowed to talk about it all because they're seen as our representatives, whether we like it or not, whether we're practicing Christians or not. So
Yeah.
please don't get
Mhm.
offended, ma'am. We gave our disclaimers earlier. I
And
land.
and,
Yeah.
and I want to
It's just
address
a
the point where
personal
the thing where she said the church is like a gym membership, and the only benefit should go to the congregation.
No,
Where'd you
what the
get that
hell?
from? Where's that
Nah,
from?
Where
what
did
she
she get
say
that
about
If
from?
you
Can I
just
say
making
something
hey,
real
I
quick?
was
claims
Can I
off
say
dying
something
when
real
she
quick?
said that.
The
where
Can I
she
same
say
way
something
said
real
you
quick?
guys got your rhetoric about what the church should be and where it should be from or where it
No,
should be at from. You didn't get it from the Bible. You got it from other people. That's what I'm saying. I mean, this all goes back to people need to think for themselves. It seems that nobody is able to actually think and actually read the Bible and see what does it say about worship and where you should worship and how you should do. I mean, all this stuff is modern Western um politic and societal norm that have been placed upon
All
people,
mind
and
control.
nobody wants to divert from it. Nobody wants to think and actually go against
All
the
mind
societal
control.
status quo. And the simple fact is it never was supposed to be a thing where you give 10% to a church. That was never supposed to be a thing. You were just supposed to give in proportion to your income and regularly. But people keep saying I'm saying the same
Can I?
thing. It's just like people don't get what I'm
White
saying.
tea
okay,
And
philosophy.
well,
y'all know? Can
hold
I
on,
say something real quick?
hold on, everybody. Everybody hasn't spoken yet, so and we got more people in the queue. But I will say, ma'am, you kind of came here reprimanding everybody and then dropped off. That's not very mature. That's not. Yeah, I get you're passionate, but if you can't stand here and allow people to respond to what you said, that means that you don't really stand on what you said. Okay, and you're still in the room. That doesn't reflect pretty well on you. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's not
Hey,
even a
Afro.
debate. Because don't say I would debate. Why would I stay in debate? Why would you stay and criticize? If you're not gonna listen to people's response to what you have to say, then don't come up here and then reprimand people, wag your finger, and then run out the room. That doesn't reflect well on you. And it doesn't reflect well on people defending this, to be very honest.
Something very important I
But
want to tell you
we,
before you go. Very important. Very short. Very short. A lot of people don't know all your churches around the world. If you're a Christian church, you are under a sanctioning body. What is that sanctioning body called? You can go look at your Bible right now. It's called the World League of Church Councils. Who's the head of the World League of Church Councils? The Vatican. I'll drop it.
facts.
I just wanted to apologize to everybody in the panel because I know, I got heated and I was going back and forth with her. But, this is something that I've experienced in my life and how I was affected by it, having family members that are actual pastors and running churches and me seeing all of this stuff go on behind the scenes. I do apologize.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. We're gonna have to cycle the panel out because we got some more people coming up. We got a couple more people coming up, so we might have to drop some people. But let's
Say
get to
one more
T.
thing, and I'll drop down for you.
All right, real quick, and then we'll get to
Uh,
TMC.
Okay. We also had to remember even the elder sister that was on the panel. The Pope allowed these other nations to come over here in America and conquer the people and steal the land because they weren't Christians. And Jesus knocked over the tables. He was banging on the bankers, the politicians, and the dark priesthood. And I dropped.
All right, yeah. Let's have these honest conversations, y'all. All right, let's get to TMC.
Yeah, I think there was a familiarity with how she was speaking. Some would call it condescending, some would call it judgmental and stuff like that. I think we all, being black, have a familiarity with like how she was coming. And unfortunately, the people who quote unquote love Christ the most, they make it hard to come to God because of their disposition. And honestly, that breaks my heart more than anything. But in terms of the prompt, what Drewski highlighted essentially is something we've all seen. Whether you've denounced the church, whether you believe that you don't need church anymore, regardless of your stance, we've all seen that type of behavior. And I don't think people put enough stock into like what money really does to you. In the Bible, it says it's we know it easier for somebody camel and a needle and something like that. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I think I use this example and then I go on mute. So I had went into business for myself, and it was the first time that I had made that amount of money at one time. And what it did was, like, you're very limited when you don't have resources. But what it did was it exposed some stuff in me. And getting the money was one thing, but as business started to change, when COVID happened, what really exposed like my character was trying to keep up the lifestyle that the money was affording. And so it was some immoral stuff going on. Let me just put it like that. And like when you see these when you see these churches, there's a lot of them, they treat it like business. They have, in the same way a company would have a table of people, and they're trying to scale that business, and they're trying to figure out how to do that, and they're asking for money, et cetera, et cetera. The point is that if anybody is offended because of the behavior of what Druski was illustrating, I would just implore y'all to see it for what it is. People using the word of God to profit, and the people using the word of God to profit at the expense of the people, at the expense of their souls, at the expense of all this, at the expense of the people and their souls. And I'll go on mute.
All right. Okay. Let's get to not me.
Hold on, I'm coming, y'all. Hello, Namadia. Okay, the only thing I can say is she just proved our point. That's why a lot of people denounce Christianity, because the way she taught, the way how Christianity be forced on you
You know what I'm saying? And everybody in this panel just proved her wrong. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just the way everybody was talking. It just makes sense to me how everybody in this panel just explained everything. So, yeah.
All right. And the thing is that people say that the church is too strict. No, well, the church it should be strict, but it should be strict on everybody. And my thing is, if you're going to be strict on everybody. Okay, don't just be strict on society. Don't be strict on the congregation, but yet there's no rules and regulations for the pastor. All right, and that's I think the thing, because I know a lot of Christians who don't go to church because of that. There's a lot of
Okay.
people who are
Look, she
Christian
still.
that read their Bible and all that stuff, but they don't go to church because people at church behave like that. Okay, they're very
Yes.
protective, defensive, dogmatic, and that type of behavior is a turn off, especially for new goers going in there. And this is what we're saying, that this type of behavior, these optics followed by that incredibly defensive behavior, is a turn off to people. And then people be all like, well, y'all don't go to church. Y'all don't go to church. Yeah, y'all the reason why.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you don't have to go
She in the
to
comments now. I'm sorry. She in the comments now telling my son that won't save you, proving me wrong won't save you. And again, we're proving you wrong, because who want to go to church and say I'm saved, God saved me? I don't have to say I'm a Christian. I don't have to say I'm anything. I don't want to be a Christian. Y'all are bad. I ain't gonna say all of them are bad people, but the ones that I have dealt with have treated me terribly, terribly. So everything to me that Christians say is a lie. Most of them, anyway. Some of the things they say are a lie. They lie a lot. Like, I can't explain it, but it's the way they go around things. You feel me? And her in here telling my son, I know who saved me, God. You ain't gonna save me. She not gonna save me. Nobody ain't gonna save me but God. So her just saying the stuff that she's saying, for one, is she irking me.
so I'm
And,
just
and,
going.
and the
It
thing
seems
is
that you
that
guys will
I
never
don't think
stop.
this conversation isn't supposed to be non-Christians versus Christians. That's not
Right,
what
you
this
right,
conversation was supposed to be.
but still, that's the way how she coming. Like, how she know I'm not saved?
Just
How
stop
she
putting
know I'm not
people on
saved?
a pedestal. Like, why are you guys
Okay, brother,
expecting?
look, you saying stop putting people on a pedestal. These people volunteered and they put themselves in a position to be a faith leader. That's what a pastor is. So you're
Mm-hmm.
making it seem as if
It
the
doesn't. You're
congregation,
not
hold
supposed to.
on, brother, hold on. Because you've been saying this the whole time. You're making it seem as if the congregation shouldn't hold the pastor accountable because you shouldn't put anybody on the pedestal. So with that being
Bro.
said, I guess there shouldn't be a church, and I guess there
It
shouldn't be
shouldn't,
a pastor then.
bro. The church. This is not. I keep. It's not even nobody's getting what I'm saying. You don't have to walk into a building to go to church,
I
and
don't.
the
Brother,
the
we
pastor
know
is
that.
supposed to be appointed by the church, which is supposed to be the assembly of people in the name of Jesus Christ. The church is the body of Christ, which is the people and the bodies of human beings who are created in the image of God. It seems nobody actually
No,
is
nobody
hearing what
who
I'm
who
saying.
just
You guys
disagrees
have
with that,
one
brother. Who,
track thinking.
brother,
You're
brother,
not willing to
brother?
hear another
Who? No,
perspective.
I am. But who
No, you're
just
not.
disagreed? No, we're on the same page as far as
No,
that's
no,
concerned.
no, we're not on the same page.
No,
Cause,
we are,
you
brother.
keep saying
Stop.
the same
Some
thing,
people be
bro.
Brother,
having a
you've been
temper
saying this the
tantrum.
whole
A lot of
time.
them.
Since you got up here, you've been saying that the whole time. That what the church is supposed to be about. We have buildings, okay? Church, like you just said, I'm not disagreeing with you, okay? But if a pastor is appointed by the congregation, by the people, and the pastor is then exploiting people, or it seems to be
And the
exploiting people,
Bible warns against that. This is why I'm
okay,
telling
so
people
this
to
is what we're
think for
talking about.
yourselves. These people, if you are gullible enough, this is what I'm saying.
Is this
Everything
not
that's
what we're
Oh
doing?
but
my
let
Is
but let
this
me
not,
let
hold
me just
God.
on,
finish
hold on,
talking though.
stop,
Let me
brother. Is this not what we're doing? Are we not thinking for ourselves by
No, you're
even
not.
having this conversation?
But I'm talking about
Okay, this is insufferable.
This
This
is
is
Okay, hold
crazy.
on. I want to
insufferable.
Exactly.
hear. I
What the
want to hear
I'm
what
hell?
you got to
responding to
say.
what the host is saying though. I don't know why you're muting me. He's asking me a question. I
Because
don't know
I
why you
can, and
guys
you're
are
over talking
Pastor
him,
on the
sir.
pedestal, man.
just
Hold
And
asking me
you're
a
on.
question.
borderline
I'm
Okay,
not over talking
disrespectful
him.
at this time.
okay.
Please
He just
let
asked
the
me a
host get his
question.
full point out. Go on mute.
See, this is panel is not gonna last. I'm just
No,
gonna
no,
say
no, no.
one.
Go ahead,
Okay,
brother. You've been
bye.
saying it. Okay, go ahead.
I'm
I'm gonna
on
let you
mute.
go ahead. Let me put a timer so that way nobody interrupts you. You got a whole minute. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna just say this, and then I'm gonna just drop because
Don't do that. Don't do that.
the simple
Yeah, don't
point,
try to run down. What the
the
hell y'all
simple,
think?
the simple point I'm trying to make is everything that's being spoken about is warned in the Bible. It warns against false prophets. It warns against people using the word of God for money. So I mean, all I'm saying, this is what I'm saying. People think for themselves, actually read the Bible and see if this stuff is actually accurate on what the Bible says. And none of this stuff, the building being a place where you have to go, is not accurate on what the Bible says. Pastors appointing themselves is not accurate. Paying tithes to a church, none of this stuff is accurate on what the Bible says. The Bible just tells you to pay as in proportion to your income. But nobody listening to what I'm saying. You guys are still going off what society has conditioned you to think is normal. You are still placing people in positions to where you think they speak for Christianity as a whole. I am
No,
20 years
okay.
old.
Here's the
I'm
thing.
20 and I
Nobody
come to
is
that
saying that
understanding
though. Nobody
easily.
is saying that. Nobody's saying that these people speak for Christianity as a whole, brother. Nobody is saying that. Nobody is even refuting any point that you made. But
I
you're
am.
making these points. It's almost like we're having two complete different conversations.
We
Because
are.
what we're saying is that these people who are pastors, because it's not like the Bible says there are no pastors and nobody can be a pastor. These people who are pastors, regardless of however they became pastors, are in positions, and their positions are exploiting the congregation and people. They're out here calling online. I'm seeing infomercials where they ask for donations over the phone. And this is, and you're talking about people don't think for
And I
themselves.
disagree with that.
Oh, okay. And this is what we're saying. This is the conversation that we're saying. Because anytime we bring up the fact that, hey, hold on, I think these pastors are doing a little bit too much. I don't think these pastors are going the right way. Then we have people who are defending them saying, well, why are you mad at them? Just leave them alone. It shouldn't be about the pastor.
Hey,
And
host,
trying
hold
to
on.
deflect blame
I'm
off of the
speaking to the
pastor.
people who
So hold
don't
on,
know the
Blitz.
Bible.
Instead of having a meaningless argument, what exactly are you disagreeing with in regards to what the host is saying? What exactly are you disagreeing with?
So what I'm disagreeing with is, once again, the rhetoric. I'm disagreeing with the whole how you see what a church is. It's not gonna stop being this way unless you stop thinking the same way and in the same direction. I'm willing to hear it from different perspectives, right? But you've been hearing the same thing for 30 years straight, telling you you have to go in a building in order to worship God. I'm trying to
Okay.
tell you you don't have to
Nobody,
do that,
no,
but
okay.
nobody.
Nobody
So
said
this is
that.
what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying right here. The point is simply wake up and realize these people are deceiving you, and it's two ways to think. It's either you're going to keep thinking the same way. I agree with you that people should not deceive, people should not manipulate the church. All I'm saying is the people who are gullible enough to not actually read the Bible and know that the Bible warns about all this stuff, that is the fault of you. It said people will perish for the lack of knowledge.
Okay,
Okay,
Blitz,
so
So
should,
Blitz. Hold
should
on,
I
there,
mean,
hold
Blitz.
on,
I
hold
don't
on.
know.
Let me
I'm
ask this
not a
question. Hold on.
sugarcoater. I'm not a
Let me
skin
ask
coater.
this
I
question.
don't
Let me
cater
ask
to
this
your
question.
emotions.
Let me ask this question. Should there be no building that's a church? Should all churches cease to exist then? Because your whole argument is that a church doesn't have to be a building. I
Yes,
agree. I concede to that.
yes.
Should there not be a church then?
I don't
A
think it
physical
should, because it
church?
says in the Bible that the Lord doesn't reside in buildings made by the hands of
Okay.
humans.
Now
So
here's the
He
difference
because
though.
the
going
Hold
exactly
temple
on, hold
off the
on.
Bible
Here's
and
the
what the
difference.
Bible's saying,
Here's
the
the
and I
temple
difference.
is
get it.
supposed
Nobody
to
is,
be
hold
your
on, everybody
body.
stop. Everybody can't talk. Okay. Here's the difference. Nobody is saying that you have to only worship God at a church. Okay. That's what you're making it seem like our argument is,
No,
that
that's not what
only
I'm
you,
saying.
okay.
That's not
That's
what I'm
what it
saying.
was seeming like.
Your
So
argument
now
is
are you
based off
saying,
the
no, brother,
assumption.
stop, please. Are you saying that there should not be any churches or any pastors?
Yes, because
Okay.
because what it leads to is
You,
people not being able to understand what the Bible is actually saying,
brother,
and
okay.
people being deceived by people who don't have their best interest at heart. I don't think it should be any building placed or any wage tied to preaching the word of God. That's what I think. Because at this point, people are never going to stop thinking the same way, and it's going to be just a circular thing of people's constantly complaining and complaining when this was never supposed to be like this from the jump. From the time of Jesus Christ, it was never supposed to be this way. That's why he went in the church and flipped over the tables, because they were in there doing the same thing that two people are up here constantly complaining about.
So hold on. Christ went into the synagogue, which is the church, to preach. All right, the church simply means the gathering of God's
The
people.
synagogue is
Hold
not
on,
the synagogue is not the church.
stop. Hold on,
brother,
stop.
you've been
The church is simply
I'm gonna
the
correct you.
gathering of God's people. That does not necessarily need to be in a building, but it is simply the gathering of God's people. Some people do it in a building. I don't know why you would be opposed to that, but hey, I'm really not even trying to make that argument with you. But for somebody who has zero knowledge of God, and there should not be pastors or churches, how are they supposed to? Brother, you're not making any sense, brother.
that,
You
Bruh,
that
just
that's what
if you're
I'm
gonna
not
ask me a
getting where the
question, bro, this is
solution
what
is
I'm saying.
coming from.
If you're gonna ask a question, actually finish the question out. Don't just say, "Well, you're not." Bro, I don't understand how you guys think this is an
Brother,
acceptable
you
Okay,
okay,
conversation.
so
you've been up here at this point in
my
time,
God.
besides the co-host and the host, you've been up here longer
Read
than
the
everybody
Bible.
else.
Yeah.
Read the
Okay.
Bible and gather with people
No,
who
oh,
want to
brother, you've been saying read the Bible, read the Bible. What we're saying is that you've been
complaints.
speaking, not speaking against mega churches. You've been saying they're pretty much what you just said is that church doesn't have to be a physical thing. As a matter of fact, it shouldn't be a physical thing. There shouldn't be any churches,
Which is
and
asinine.
there shouldn't be any pastors.
That's what the Bible
How,
said.
okay, thank you, brother.
I never said it
Thank
shouldn't
you.
be
That's
any
enough.
pastors.
Thank
This is
you,
what I'm saying. You guys, it seems that you don't
brother. You
actually
just
care what
did
I'm
say that.
saying. You just
You
want to get
said
off a
that, and now
narrative.
you're walking it back because it doesn't really
I'm
make
not
that much
walking it back.
sense.
I'm standing 10 toes down on everything I said. I
Okay,
never
what
said
is
there shouldn't be pastors. I said there shouldn't be buildings made where people go into church because then
Okay.
that opens the
But
door for
not
that.
So
everybody's at the
that's
same
stupid. Hold
level
on, let me
you
get this
are,
that
over with
doesn't
You
quick.
Prince.
don't
Hold
make
on,
have to
hold on,
any
be the
hold on.
same
sense.
So
same.
that's stupid as hell. Okay,
You
for you
don't
to
have to
think
be
there
at the
shouldn't
same
be any.
level to have
Okay,
a
we didn't let you got your shit off. I think that's dumb as shit for you to think that there shouldn't be any buildings, any houses of worship. That doesn't even make sense, sir. That does not make any sense. We are going
bro.
to need a place of worship. There's a place that people go. Some people don't, some people are in environments where there aren't any people that are led by God. There aren't any holy people around them. So in order for them to get around some holy people, they go to a building where holy people gather, which would be a fucking church.
That
That's
ain't
not
holy in the holy building
like, this
though.
is not a far-fetched idea. I get what you're saying with a church being just you speaking, you congregating with other people, sure. But in a realistic world, especially under this system of white supremacy, let's get real here. Black folks specifically need a place. We need a place of worship. We need a place exclusive for us that is without outside influence, especially from those, again, our open enemy, that where we can openly praise and openly speak to one another, openly teach one another, openly counsel. So this idea that there shouldn't even be a church is fucking dumb.
So
What are we talking about? Like,
I'm
sir,
willing to
what are you saying?
concede that
You're
he
standing on a,
he
oh, this
just
is a bad hill to die
why
Hold
on,
are
on,
you
bro.
brother.
yelling? You
Like,
should
for
have just
real.
like so
What the fuck are
I'm
we
not
talking
trying to
about?
down his hill.
Hold on one
He
second.
just
Hold on
was
one
pushing
second,
me on
brother.
that point.
Can I
So I
can I can
Hold
I
said
on,
jump in?
everybody. Hold on. Everybody can't talk at the same time.
Can I jump in 1 second?
Hold
I don't
on.
talk.
I thought she was responding
Hold
to
on.
my
Let
point. You know what I'm saying?
let him
That's what I'm
address
saying.
what
Let
she
me
just
just
said.
address what she's saying, bro. Like, so I'm not literally saying. I was just saying that to for the conclusion of all this diaspora and all this other. I'm not. I'm willing to concede to there actually being like a building where you can go, but I'm just saying there's it shouldn't be so much expected out of these people because people don't owe you anything. At the end of the day, nowhere in the Bible does it say for you to actually have to go to a church. So at the end of the day, the temple is your body. You don't actually need anybody to congregate for you to be in in the presence of God. You can just the temple is your body once again.
Okay,
So
that's
you
something
once again,
good.
you guys aren't willing to see things different from the societal norm and what you've been
Brother,
pushed to
okay, you're
believe.
saying the
Thank you.
societal norm. This has been
That's
the
the
norm.
societal
People
norm.
have, hold on.
It's
I
not
want you to
biblical.
understand. Hold on. Let's tone it down. Everybody, let's settle down. People have been going to church around the entire planet for centuries now. This is not no new norm thing. People have been going to, whether it's a church, whether it's a masjid, a synagogue, people, or whether it's a temple, people have been going to a place of worship for ever since the recording of really human history. People have been going someplace to worship. Okay, so that's not no. This is, you're saying a societal norm. No, this has been a norm for centuries now.
It's still a
Yeah, but
societal
hey,
norm.
hold on,
It's
hold on,
still
Okay,
a
bro. Can I
all
society,
right,
bro.
interject?
all right, all right.
That
And that's
doesn't
Can I
mean.
okay.
address?
This is what I'm
Can
That's
I
saying. You
address?
guys seem
because
to
at
not
this point there
understand
is no
terms.
solution.
I'm
Then
saying you
You
because at
don't
guys.
this
under.
point
The
there is no
solution is to
solution.
the
Because
It's
if you're saying,
solution.
hold on, stop. If you're saying a church can be a backyard, which technically you're correct, it can be, then there would still be a pastor, wouldn't there? And the pastor could still
The
be
point
corrupt.
is
The
simply
pastor could still be
And if that's the
sinful.
a
case,
So there's
the
nothing that
idea
well,
you see of a pastor is not what actually the Bible's. A pastor is just somebody who is. It can be anointed by the church, which is the body or the assembly of people, but you just have it. It's not exclusive to one person. It gives guidelines on the people who the person who is looked at as a leader and what they should do. That isn't exclusive to one person. Anybody can become a pastor. Anybody can preach the word of God.
nobody is saying that. But if what you just said, you just kind of messed up because what you just said is that if somebody is appointed, which means
By
in the
the
Bible,
people.
and I've been Googling, in the Bible, they do allow people to become pastors. People are pastors, right? That's been a thing for centuries.
By the
There's
people.
been pastors for centuries. So if the pastor, who even if they were appointed, however they got there, started messing up, they need to be held accountable. And this
I'm
is
not
what the
disagreeing with
conversation's
that
been
though. I
about.
don't know. This is what I'm saying. This is why it's circular. You're not understanding what I'm agreeing with and what I'm actually disagreeing with. You keep saying, well, pastors should be held accountable. I'm telling you to your face, I'm agreeing with this, sir. I agree people should be held accountable. I think black people should change how they think because you're thinking in a one-track way. You don't want to see anything different. How long are you gonna think the same? Are you ever
Brother,
gonna wake up and
It's
Okay.
not
and
okay,
about
see
you're
things
that.
saying
different?
that you're
1
saying
minute.
You guys
you're
think the
you're
Just
being
same
saying
for
this.
50 years
condescending.
straight.
Wall. Please
Okay,
mute.
all of this wake up. Why don't people wake
Wall.
up? Why are people being
Need a
fooled?
mute.
All of this finger
Mm-mm.
wagging and being condescending and insulting, and
I'm not being insulting
your solution is not landing. It's not making
because
sense.
you don't want
Your
to hear it.
solution is that it
You're not
shouldn't
even. This is what
be,
I'm saying. First of
brother.
all, bro,
No, no.
you're not
At this
even a.
point, no. At this point, we're going to move on
Let's just
because
move
every
on because
time I
it's
say I
circular.
don't stop it. Stop doing that. Stop. Okay, we're going to move on because every single time I say that doesn't make sense, you're not hearing me. We heard you. We've been hearing you. You've been saying the same thing the entire
Because you
conversation.
guys think the same, and I'm willing to drop out this panel because you
Okay,
guys
good.
don't.
Bye.
You have a
Okay,
Bye.
one
Bye.
track
goodbye.
brain.
please.
Because
And
if
to
Do y'all see
everybody,
that?
hold on. I saw it. So it's his delivery. It gotta be, right? He's been saying the same thing, the same thing, the same thing, and it ain't even on topic, right? We can argue with the worship because we all know it says with two or more come together. You know what I'm saying? So we can have. What's the purpose for rallies? Church has what? They have I know revivals, right? You can have church under a tent. You can have church in your living room. Okay, take away the building, the floors, right, and or the good stuff of the people who would make up the church. The congregation is still there. We're addressing that, the content and the behavior that gave Drewski the content. Or unless I'm mistaken, this wasn't about a building. He just wanted to be a contrarian. He couldn't
He
pivot with the conversation once he made his original point. And now everybody's like, drop him. He's confusing. My God, he said that already. We're not arguing whether there should be a church or not because we know we could go anywhere and have church. It's the behaviors we're speaking about.
Yeah. And his whole thing is, well, the Bible had warned us about this. Okay. So that means that we should just at this point in time not have everybody should have their own church.
that doesn't make sense.
Like
May I say
It
something
doesn't
too?
what are
even
we
make
to
no
do
damn
with
sense.
what are we to do with that knowledge? And I noticed he was a contrarian because he started agreeing with that other old lady who was disagreeing, and they were sitting up there kiki and ha ha and in the chat room. So I'm all like, okay, that's the type of time he's been on. Remember when he first came in here, he started defending the pastor, talk about, well, why can't the pastor have nice things? And it's not about that. So
Yeah, he
he's
was.
been a contrarian from get go, and he's been trying to pivot his conversation in a way that makes sense to say you shouldn't blame the pastor, they shouldn't be held accountable. What needs to happen is the congregation or society needs to stop being gullible. If people are gullible enough to be robbed by a pastor, then that's their own fault. That's what he's been saying the whole time, for real.
Wait,
And it's
Afro. Wait, ZZ. I gotta say this. So there, I have a habit of blocking trolls, right? Why is he already blocked?
Oh
You
wow.
know, Blitz, Stop trying to troll people. You already blocked, and I should have checked your profile a long time ago. I already have him blocked, y'all. So
Yeah,
he just
look at
put up
that.
here to do that there,
But I think that this
some nigga that
conversation,
has it.
him and the other lady, perfectly reflects on how the second we start saying anything about the church, you're going to have these Bible thumpers
Yep.
who are going to try to cherry pick parts of the Bible to fit their argument and to deflect from accountability. Because
Yeah.
That's
regardless
what
of
I'm
what he's saying,
saying.
there was still, he doesn't defeat what we're saying. We're saying that certain churches, not all churches, certain churches and certain pastors need a level of accountability. And he
Yeah.
took issue with that.
It's like he was contradicting himself where he was saying that he kept talking about people need to wake up as sheep, but I'm like, you realize you're using this terminology sheep when you reference sheep are the masses. That's most people. So when you're talking about people just need to wake up and stop putting people on pedestals, well, yeah, that's just the natural order of things, that most people are like that. Most people are easily influenced, unfortunately. So, and people take advantage of that. That's why the responsibility has to go back on the pastor or the preacher, because they understand the position they're in. They understand the desperation or the need of the people that they're directing their message to. So I'm not like this. All of this, stop putting people. I'm like, brother, that's, I don't know what point in history you looking at that the majority of people weren't easily fucking influenced, but that's literally like what you talk when you think about when you talk about sheep. Sheep is the prophet will be the person directing the herd, but the people are the sheep. Like, what are we talking about? You're
It
contradicting yourself.
it becomes a thing where he starts to victim blame.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
really what it is. It's a bunch of victim blaming, because what we're saying is
The preacher is supposed to
if
be the
you
shepherd.
are in a position where you're supposed to be a spiritual leader of a church, you have a responsibility. And if you're out there exploiting or misusing your authority, misusing your privilege, you can't say, well, people should wake up and people shouldn't allow you to get in that position in the first place. Okay, that's victim blaming at that point. And you're doing that to save face for the pastor.
Exactly.
Is supposed to be the shepherd. You know what I mean? The people are the sheep. So the shepherd's supposed to lead the flock. But look, he's basing all this off of Yahshua the Christ. See, Yahshua the Christ, he never spoke in any domiciles. The only domicile he ever spoke in is when the Pharisees were trying to trial him for seditions and all that and blasphemy. But he never spoke in domiciles. Yahshua the Christ, he always preached in open fields, valleys, hills. And so he's basing it off of that. But, you know, as time went on, people did build domiciles. Now, the most famous domicile that was ever built unto the Lord was the house that Solomon built unto the Most High. And they actually got that in the Bible. They just describe it and all the measurements and everything. It's a very long thing to read. That's the only really house that was ever built physically unto the Lord, the house that Solomon built. But other than that, there were never no places that anybody went inside and worshiped. They all worship outside valleys, hills, and pastures.
All right, let's get to FBA Wolfie. We've been on for a good minute, but it's about time we start wrapping stuff up.
Hey everyone, how everyone doing? So I want people to understand that Christians can hold other Christians accountable. That was in the Bible. When he was speaking, he was referencing different scriptures and did not put it all together. He was going in circles. But Christians can hold other Christians accountable. And when it comes to church and our history, it goes hand in hand. Church was a place of our people gathering. Most churches held information, birth certificates, and so many other information. You know, it was a place where like-minded people gathered and planned and built within the community. A lot of things happened within our church. But as the years going on, church has been a very profitable business. It has turned into a business. When you think about what Drewski did, it kind of is, he putting it out on Front Street. It's the same when Jesus went into the temples with the whip and he said, church is for prayer, not for robbers. Jesus was calling out what was happening in the church as he was a man walking on earth. We can call out everything that's happening in the church and don't mean that we're questioning our God. We question the people who represent God. That's Christ-like. And faith is individual. I can never say what Ms. Zizi is doing is the reason that I'm going to hell or going to heaven. So you cannot blame another person for your relationship with God. That's just that's an individual thing. But we can't count out everything we see in church. It shouldn't be pastors in 2026, multimillionaires with compound, and that's taking money away from the church. That's taking money away from the people. That is not building and helping the community. It is not like the churches back in the day when they gather our birth certificate. You know, we have AMEs that have been around for over 200 years with information. Church is supposed to be a place that we can gather in prayer. You know, but your faith is your own walk. And yes, sir, you can have church anywhere, but it's good to be around like-minded people to build and to grow within self-confidence and so many other things. But, you know, I get it. Church has changed. It becomes a business. But these pastors, and a lot of them are looking at church as a career, not as a way to teach God or bring people closer to God. Remember, people, when you go to church, it's for yourself, not for the people that's there. And I'm right there.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Let's get to this around.
Afro, we haven't been asking people ethnic group, right?
I asked a couple people. I forgot about it. I'm not gonna lie to
You
you.
ask Blitz,
No, I didn't ask
right? So he's already blocked.
I think I did. I think I did ask Blix actually. I think I did. I think he said he was Black American, but you know, you don't really know for sure though, right?
Right. I'm just, and then not all Black Americans think alike. Some like to debate. They just like to, and that's your issue, bro. You like to debate, and I like to try. So I know when you debate, and I got to walk away from the phone. And this was one of those moments. But he has been previously blocked, which leads me to believe that he is either, you know, a panty or not Black like us. You know, not of the lineage. So I just wanted to kind of refresh my memory. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be, maybe. Let's get to how do you say your name? Let's
Just
get
call me Kidney. It's good.
Kidney. All right, Kidney.
I feel like the Druski skit was accurate because I feel like some pastors shouldn't even like be flashy like that. Because in the Bible it said Jesus was an average man. So will an average man wear a Dior suit and red bottoms and all that? No, he wouldn't. So basically, like, to me, I feel like that as blocking attention from the purpose of church, you know, because people are going to be more focused on your outfit than what you're actually saying. And then on some mega churches, it feels like a concert in a way.
It could, yeah, it kind of does be like that. And I think the thing is that nobody is saying that church should be boring. I'm not saying that church should be boring. I'm not saying that church should be uninteresting. I'm not saying those things. Okay.
I get that, but
I do say, hold on, but I do also say there's a time and a place for everything. And certain things in certain situations make it inappropriate. If I saw a pastor on a random Monday morning and I see him in Gucci from top to bottom, you know, versus what he was yesterday, and he was wearing the same, I guess, level of clothing or quality of clothing everybody else was, that would be his decision. Now, what he wears outside of the church, I would argue, okay, you can do that if this is your style, whatever the case is. But I feel like what I'm trying to say is that when you're in the church, there should be a standard.
Yeah,
especially
of
for the
course.
pastor. There should be a standard when you're out there like being flashy and kind of flexing and being
Exactly, diamonds and all that. Too much,
yeah,
man. Too much.
you know, that doesn't reflect well at that moment. Maybe any other time it would be okay, but at that moment, because you're a pastor in church, that would, I would argue, make that less appropriate.
Exactly. And then like with church as well, I never understood this. Like church falls on the Sunday. I'm correct, right?
Most of the time, yeah. I know people who go to
Some
church on Sunday.
pastors will literally, I've seen it in big churches, small churches. They will end the sermon, whatever, early just to catch a football game. So, what's more important to you? The people getting the word of God? Are you seeing the Cowboys play or your favorite team play? That's what I don't get at all.
Mm.
Man, that's being considerate because we can catch the rest of the sermon on Wednesday. See, when you grow up in church, you grow up in church every day. Church don't stop. It goes on with you. So when the
I know
pastors
that.
let us off early for church, we're celebrating right along with it. We got the word in due time. We'll come back next Sunday.
Yeah.
That's
But
being
some
considerate.
people, but some pastors be like rushing to get the word out to make it on time for their
Well, I
football
think that
game.
might be a different argument though, like because I want
It's not.
to. Because here's the thing, what? How long is a sermon supposed to be? How long is a sermon? How long is a
I
sermon
mean,
supposed to
a
be?
pastor shouldn't openly say, what time is it so I can catch the game? Or I'm gonna have to end this soon because the game about to come on. You shouldn't have to openly say that is what I'm saying.
Okay, I mean, you might feel like that's inappropriate, and okay, that's an
It
argument.
is inappropropriate.
All right.
It's not a different argument either.
No, it is a different argument because what
It's
we're talking,
not.
yeah, brother, it is because what we're talking about is the exploitation of money and a monetary
Exactly.
exploitation of different churches.
Exactly.
Him leaving church early to go to a football game doesn't have anything to do with him using tithes to buy red bottoms. You know what I'm
I
saying?
mean,
Or to
I'm
go to a
not
football
talking about.
game. So I don't know. It's just
Okay. Oh, he might have got a call.
Something
okay.
happened.
I
We can
might,
move.
I might say this, y'all. I gotta say this, right? So I'm not a practicing Christian. I didn't grow up in the church. I grew up in an unconventional household, right? I call my family, my parents, black hippies, right? There's some things that's just in our culture that they didn't really like. I'm a believer of common law marriage because my parents didn't get married until after being with each other for 11 years, right? So I say all that to say this: the church is good for a myriad of things. It was my granny who actually took me to a Baptist church and got me started on my journey there. I went to Catholic school. Like I have a tolerance for all religions except if you tell me Luciferian. But I got to tell you, after everything that we've been going through in New York, I'm noticing people in New York where I'm at aren't dressing the same. I'm not seeing the inspiration. I'm not a hater, right? So I look at a woman and say, where you get them shoes? Where you get them bags? You know? And I felt like running to the church. Why? Because when I say the pretty people, I mean well dressed, dressed to the nines. And anybody who know my granny still speak about her today. She always looked her best. No matter if it was Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday, Granny was stepping. She was dressed to the nines, as we say, right? And sometimes you need to go to church for fellowship. You need to go to church for inspiration. Not all, but even for a non-practicing Christian spiritual woman like me, I wanted to run to the church. So as Zizi said, we do need churches for Black people as safe spaces, and I like that we're calling out the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. Because how does the church improve? We do need our safe spaces, and hopefully the church, if we find the right church, can continue to be one. Because even myself was going to run there the other day. I'll land there, y'all.
All right.
Yeah.
That's true. All right, let's get to VDAC. VDAC, you can go ahead. Okay. All right. We're going to get to Shanton. Oh, you can unmute. You can unmute yourself. You got to unmute yourself, Vidak. You know how to do that? You got to yeah, okay. It's at the bottom of the screen.
Okay, I got it. Okay, I got it. I just want to say this panel, I love this panel. Like you haven't, like I know certain people like swerved off the topic at hand, but you guys got back on there, and this is like one of the first ones that I've been on that hasn't swerved off topic as far as the Drewski backlash. So I'd like to thank y'all for that first. But anyway, I would like to say, as far as the Drewski backlash, the only reason why I believe that there is even backlash in the first place is because the community that and that includes me too, that so-called strayed away from church has been preaching to people that still is in the community of church. And we have been telling them for the longest that they have strayed from the love, because that's what it is. Like, you know, the love of the people that was in the church, including the pastor. I've been in churches to where like they were small enough to where the pastor even recognized you from the time that you was little to the time, like I mean a baby, to the time that you grew up as an adult. And they, like, you know, they see how you was doing, how your grades was, you know, what you ate that day, if you need any clothing, they had you. If you needed money for like anything, we took trips, we did like the whole nine. So, you know, I've grew up in church, like, you know, born, raised in it. And what I believe is that the reason why even that preacher lady that was here that first time that was like, you know, criticizing people, that was criticizing the church, is that what she doesn't see, because she's set in her ways. You know how older people are. Older people are set in their ways. Not all of them, but a majority. People are. Older people are set. Hold on. But you know, some older people, you know, and you gotta forgive them because, you know, they set in their ways and they're like, you know, well, you know, they basically feel as if like you are talking about the man that is the leader. You're talking about the man that is, you know, the person that, you know, have molded, like, not just her in her thought process, because it is a psychological thing too, her thought process, but other people. And and like ZZ said, and I love ZZ points, it's easy for them to be people to be influenced. It is because they have been raised in this. They have been bred in this. They have been molded to that. Everything around us. No, it doesn't always take church to become a good person, but in their case, they feel like that. They do feel like that until you kind of, like what they say, stray away from it and you start seeing the world as you see it. And that's all I have to say as far as from that. Yeah, I'm definitely from Memphis.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that. And I think that shows the way I want to put this, like what you and Wolfie said about the church being for the community, you know, and the church being the community for people who might not be Christian. That's a thing too. That's the thing that used to happen. Not only the church being for somebody who is not necessarily a part of the congregation, but the church being the community for people who might not be Christian, who might just be discovering God or their faith or whatever the case may be. But the church is still a benefit to them. You know,
Yep.
now the church is like a good old boys club. And you got people defending the church being a good old boys club.
Yep.
Where
A
you gotta
Beyonce
pay to
concert.
come in there. You gotta pay to pray. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, a Beyonce concert, if you will. You know.
group of people.
People like Shirley Caesar. She has what they call prayer lines, where you go donation lines, and you got like $100 lines, $500 lines, $1,000 lines, and people just because they want to be recognized, they'll go take life savings out just to be able to walk up and have their name called and whatnot, and be taken a picture by Shirley Caesar.
Exactly.
So a lot of these churches are just pure pimping, man. But I want to say one thing. When I was a kid, my grandmother, they forced us to go to church. If you couldn't go to church, you couldn't go outside, you couldn't do nothing. Sunday school, BTU, usher board, junior choir, vacation Bible school, all that, man, it made us actually hate church. And as I got older, I started researching the whole purpose of church and understanding, what was it all about. And then, my main thing is, I say, I was blind. Now I see. I was lost and now found. You know what I mean? And so
Absolutely.
I used to go to church to search. I said, but this is why I really say. I said I used to go to church to search. I was blind, now I see. And lost, but now I'm found. So I don't need church for anything no more, man. I can go to church and teach the church now.
Absolutely. And I kind of feel the same way. I say I'm more spiritual than religious. And that's another thing too. When people don't know the difference between religious and spiritual, that's where it draws. That's the line that I draw, and that other people kind of are drawing too. See, you might be more spiritual than you are religious. Like religious people, what we call it, religious psychosis. When we call people that's religious psychosis, you'll get there. You're more so, and then I even told people, like, shoot, you're worshiping a whole white man, you know what I'm saying? Or you're worshiping a whole black person that's standing at the pulpit more than you're worshiping God, because God don't want that to be that way. God doesn't want that. God doesn't want that at all. God wants you to worship him in bare bones, and that's just what it is. That's why I say, like, people that they strayed away from church. No, we haven't strayed away. We have gotten away from the whole plot of you have to wear a Gucci suit or have a suspender in the air. And I've seen 2 videos that Drewski was actually telling the truth. Like, he was actually showing the same suit that he had, somebody else had wore. When he was up in the air with the shoes on, like, somebody else did that in another church. And I would have been amazed to see that and be like, oh my God. Like, where has church, what direction is going in? That's my question. Where is the real direction? Where is the real direction?
That's a good question. And these are the questions that need to be answered. These are the questions that people need to not be afraid of. The conversations people need to not be afraid of. Okay. Now, and I will say, I got to give him a shout out for the fact that this skit was accurate enough for us to have this honest conversation. We've been on here for a few hours now. We've been on here for a minute having this conversation. And for the most part, it's been pretty productive and peaceful because everybody sees this issue. This is not something most people see exactly what we're talking about, whether they agree or disagree or whatever the case is, whether there's going to be people who have, might feel some type of way, might feel like we're coming at their religion or their pastor or a particular person. We got to understand, most people know now, okay, Cold Chief is good. I guess he fought them tickets off. You was able to fight them tickets off, brother. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Most people is like that. So these are the conversations that we need to have. And as far as it's tough because there's a nuance, because I'm not the type of person who's saying that people who preach should be broke, and because that goes under the guise, and it follows the logic that people who serve the community should not benefit from the community. And I don't agree with that. There are people who are act like, well, how are you an activist and getting money? How are you an activist and getting money? How are you a preacher or a pastor and getting money? No, people, I don't agree with that logic. That people, if you are sacrificing yourself, sacrificing your time, sacrificing your energy to do something for the community, whether it's religious, whether it's political, whether it's whatever, you should have to sacrifice income and your livelihood. I don't agree with that.
May I say
However, I
Absolutely.
do
something?
think that there should
Right.
be
Absolutely.
a thing where there's not exploitation involved in it. There should be
Right.
checks and
As a
balances
matter
to
of
the point
fact,
where there's not exploitation.
as a matter of fact, like, you know, I actually talked to a preacher, and I went to his church, and preaching actually supposed to be like, you know, like freedom fighting. That's what Jesus was. Jesus was a freedom fighter. He was more political than people thought. Like, you supposed to be out in the field.
Real talk.
May I say something, please?
Yeah, just real
But let me
quick, and
mute this.
yeah, we're
All
gonna wrap
right,
things up in a little bit though. So
I get that. I feel like pastors are supposed to work while they're doing their teaching and all that because they should want to do it unconditionally and from the heart. That's why.
maybe
Because like
go ahead.
if you're getting paid to do it, that means that if you weren't getting paid, then you wouldn't still do it, you know?
Yeah, that may
So
be that
basically
I
people
wouldn't. No, I wouldn't say that because there's expenses involved in it. Okay, there's time that it takes to prepare for. As a pastor, you're the one supposed to be in charge of the congregation. There's time involved in it. There's travel expenses and things like that. You got to travel to and from church all of the time. You got to make sure that your time, you have to dedicate a certain amount of your time in order to give to the church to be a good pastor. So I'm not saying the pastor shouldn't get anything, you know, because there is a certain amount of your life that you do have to dedicate to that thing. I don't think that maybe, and this might be an argument, maybe the church shouldn't subsidize your entire livelihood. Maybe all your bills shouldn't be being paid by the church. Maybe if you have a percentage limit, however much the church gives, and maybe you have like 5-10% or something like that, to be fair to you, but also to not exploit the congregation. Maybe that's a possibility where, you know, your whole house, your rent, your bills, your car note, car insurance, all of that is subsidized by the congregation. I don't think it should be that way. Maybe you should have a 9 to 5 thing, but maybe you can get something for your time that you dedicate to the church. Maybe that's fair. Because I just don't think that somebody who's doing something, serving the community, should not be, that effort should not be reciprocated. I think if somebody, whether they're a pastor, whether they're imam, whether they're a rabbi, whether they're whatever the case is, whether they're an activist, whatever the case is, if you are doing something for the community, it should be for the most benefit of the community, but you shouldn't have to be the sacrificial lamb for the community where you get nothing out of it. You know, I think there's an even and fair way for everybody, I think.
You do a certain amount of work, there should be some kind of per diem given to you for the services rendered. So I mean, yeah, any type of work, lectures. You got people like Obama. He gets almost like what, $500,000 or $1 million just to go and speak for about a couple of hours. So I mean, yeah, I mean that in a sense is kind of like work because you're regurgitating things to the people that you've sat back and took time and studied about. You know, so yeah,
Like,
there's a
yeah,
certain amount of per diem.
people say it's not work, but what does a teacher do? A teacher does work. When a teacher goes to college and gives a lecture, that teacher expects to be paid for that. You know what I'm saying? So if you studied your whole life and you know this and you know, the Bible and all of that stuff, and you're doing what a teacher would do, we don't argue that teachers shouldn't be paid. So you know what I'm saying? It is work, you know, and we should be fair and pay people for work. but I don't think that people should use that as a career to say, I want to be the next millionaire, let me be a pastor. I don't think we should have that. There's a balance to it. Let's get to Halima.
Hi, Afro. It's Halima. Can y'all hear me?
Halima, okay.
Sorry. No, you're fine. I think this is my first time up here, so I just wanted to shout y'all out, ZZ, Afro Elite, and BX. I appreciate what y'all do. Um, as far as the prompt and the conversation goes, I don't want to make like points that other people have been making, but I did want to say that when it comes to the skit, I feel like the same issue the Christians are having is the same issue that the Hebrew Israelites were having, like maybe a couple months back when he did the skit about the Hebrew Israelites and they were upset about their perception and things like that. I think the larger issue with the conversation is those people that are within those communities, their inability to have the conversation about how they are perceived by the larger majority of everyone else. Like some of these people, of your everyday people that y'all are trying to convince to come and join your organizations and things like that, the only examples that we have are what we see on TV or what we see from these pastors in these mega churches. Some of them are not going to these smaller churches to get that because the first image that they're seeing is what they get on their TikTok, FYP, or whatever. So I think their inability to have that bigger conversation with their perception of how they're being perceived on the outside is stopping them from growth. The church way back in the day, and I think a couple of people have said that before, like it used to stand for something. And now that the smoke and mirrors have been lifted from a lot of people, we're starting to see that they're dropping their own standard, whether it's a right standard or not. It's something that they're not upholding to. And a lot of it is not like what it used to be, where it was like a cultural standpoint. Like if you remember, just an example, but like gospel music in the 90s and the 80s, it sounded completely different from what we get now that's gospel music. Like there was a sound that was, well, largely because Black Americans were all over it, but they had their own unique sound and genre that made gospel music cool, that to where like Stomp by Kirk Franklin was being played in a club and stuff like that. I think now they're leaving that sound and they're going into this like white Christian like thing that is like warping their sound, like letting these things come in and take away from what they used to stand for. And so all of those things I feel like are the reason why they're unable to have this conversation or why the skit kind of just pricked them the wrong way. It's like y'all don't understand how we see y'all. Y'all think that y'all know that you're different or it may not be your church or your organization, but to the majority of us, this is just how we see it. And so we're gonna act accordingly and treat y'all accordingly. But that was it.
All right. Yeah, that's fair. All right. I mean, and we have to have this conversation because it's a turnoff to a lot of people. I think we even said that earlier. It's a turnoff to the average person looking at that. If this is their first image, or if this is the first thing they think of when they think of Christianity or the church, they're gonna be like, nah, I'm not for that. You know? So is this a good, and this is what I've been asking, is this a good image? Is this a good representation? Is this the representation that you want for your church? You know, like, and we're gonna be honest with it, because representation does matter. You know, yeah.
This is my final thoughts. It's just, I think God gave everybody common sense, and we know when there's excess and some things aren't necessary. I fully believe that if you're helping out your congregation, your community, you should get paid. But what is enough and what is just way too much? I don't think anybody needs to wear Christian Dior to be able to preach or wear, red bottoms to be able to preach, to serve their community. I think pastors should have a decent living. I think community activists should have a decent living. But if you're not serving your congregation or your community, what is your actual purpose besides just making money for yourself and for your lifestyle? And it's embarrassing for people who do want other people to know Jesus Christ, who have a personal relationship with Christ. It's embarrassing to have all these people call themselves Christians, pastors, leaders, prophets, whatever, and they act like this and they carry on like this because they're no different than some of these high-ranking politicians, you know, people that we know are corrupt. So we have to be able to treat each other with respect and kindness, but we're not stupid. We're not fools either. We can see what's going on. And I think that's why, you know, God does have a sense of humor, and he used Drewski to shed, you know, some light on this corrupt system. And it's sad that it took a comedian for us to have this conversation and not us within the church having the conversation before this even happened.
Well, you know, they say that before I lose my train of thought. Damn, I lost my train of thought. Let me come back. I lost my train of thought.
We wrapping things up, so maybe next time, brother. Because we've been on here for what a minute. We've been on here for a minute, so.
Well, thank you for letting me speak, and I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
drop.
Thank you for coming up. We've had a pretty good panel so far. We had a pretty good panel. Everybody does that. I notice y'all do that. Every time I say we wrapping up, they be all like, Afro's sleepy. Afro about to take a nap. Afro need to go to sleep. I know y'all do that, and I know why y'all do that. Y'all do that so y'all can gaslight me and manipulate me to keeping the live open. I got y'all game. I know why y'all doing that. Okay. I know. But we've been on here for like 3 hours now. Come on now. We can't have this live all day. We got stuff to do. All right, so I'm gonna let you, Black Issues. I'm gonna let you say your last thing, if you remember it. All right then. If you guys want to listen to the playback of this has been a really good live. Okay, one of the most peaceful lives we've had in a minute. Okay, really productive. If you really want to listen to the playback of this, and the playback of all of our productive, good TikTok lives, go to For the Culture on YouTube. Go to For the Culture on YouTube, and that way you can listen to the playback of this, okay? And we do these lives regularly, so y'all make sure y'all follow, so that way y'all catch every single time we go live, and you get to join the conversation. Zizi is at work right now, but let's see what's...
At work, man. Gotta put in this work.
That's why she's been quiet for such a minute.
Yeah, you know, had to get settled in. It's the greatest. But yeah. Shout out to Drewski, honestly, with this one. And one thing I will say, I will give credit to Drewski for is that he keeps the same energy for whatever group he's impersonating. All right. It's never like it never feels like a jab at a group. It's really just truly he's making light of it, making comedy of it, and it's genuinely funny. So I mean, I appreciated this skit because it spoke. I mean, it's just a real reality. Unfortunately, we actually literally have a pastor that was dressed just like this man. I seen another video of a pastor literally floating just like Druski was doing in that video too, floating across the damn church. And so yeah, unfortunately, this is a real reality. You know, these are things that are just unnecessary. I don't even see in what world would it be even like. Why is there a budget for those sorts of theatrics where you have to wear pastor has to be lifted in the air? Why the fuck are y'all putting money into that? You know, so these are things. Even with him doing that, he didn't have to say it. But just seeing that visual, it's like, this is not what we coming to church for. You know, we're not coming to church so you could be walking in the blood of Jesus with Christian Dior's on it. Like, we're losing. A lot of these pastors have lost the plot. A lot of the churches in general have lost the plot and the reason of why they're there. So yeah, again, the Christians can be upset if they want to, but it's not going to change the reality that some of these pastors got ill intentions, okay, and they've been exposed and they will continue to be exposed. And the more that you try to feed into the delusion that this is not happening, the worse that this problem gets. So yeah, again, I thought it was hilarious. It is what it is.
All right then. Yep, there we go. This has been a good conversation. I appreciate y'all. Y'all just make sure y'all join next time and go to For the Culture on YouTube. All right, please make sure y'all go to For the Culture on YouTube, because that's where the premiere of this is going to be. All right, BX, can you close us out, please, and thank you.
Me or you have a guest panelist in the big box. I'm just looking like this look kind of crazy. And my app must have updated it's not the old format, and it's ticking me off. But
no, who? I don't see him.
Really? Okay, so my app is actually updated and it's glitching. Okay, because I see somebody named This Renal Kidney, and what would be the big box? So
What?
yeah, it's my app. It's my app. It's
No,
okay.
that's he. Yeah, I didn't put him on a big box at all, so I don't know why your app is showing
Yeah.
you that.
Remember, I had to drop and scroll back in because my mod powers weren't, my mod capabilities weren't working properly. So that's why I said my app, my TikTok is glitching. I'm gonna drop and come back,
Uh
and
huh.
then I came back. I guess this is what happens when I come in late. I gotta learn my lesson, y'all. But here's the thing: I didn't see Drewski's skit. However, I can imagine the people who were in an uproar if there was an uproar. Like I said, we're in a very sensitive time. So the way I was raised under the comedians, we had the kings of comedy, we had the queens of comedy, some more, Monique, Bernie Mac, Eddie Murphy. I never found Steve Harvey funny. Martin Lawrence, Eddie Griffin, so on and so forth. I used to watch like the lower, not Def Comedy Jam, but they would have the little, stand up comedies. Eddie Griffin did one. He ain't very politically correct. I hope I have his name right? So I could imagine the people in the uproar, but we are allowed to call things out as it pertains to our community, especially since every time something happened or they need a voice to speak for the Black community, they pulling people from a church, and I ain't never seen these people before. Nobody I know has ever seen these people before. So we have to issue some correction, some straightening, or at least start the ball rolling by talking about it. I guess, the tone and what some deem a matter of respect. It gets lost with them because they're stuck in their ways, and you're just not supposed to talk about your church clergy that way, But in this day and time, we have to call them out. We have too much at stake, and if they seen as a leader for us, then I'm gonna say what's wrong with them. Period. Because then, we, Reverend Jesse Jackson, got us calling ourselves African American, got the whole world thinking we're African American. Some people don't understand my birth certificate was says black, and I was reclassified to African American at the age of 13. Like, I'm over the reverend. So if you going to tell me this reverend is our leader, I'm going to analyze his history in the church and out. Because why we got to be African American today? Because of a reverend. Right? So I think we're allowed to talk about all of that. We don't need to go into a building to have church. We could go under a tent rally, have a revival. I don't care, but I need to hear some gospel. Now they got praise dancing. Before my biological mother transitioned, I was dancing to gospel music. She said, you are not supposed to do that. Because she used to sing in the choir. So during her time, her raising, there was no praise dancing in church. The Holy Spirit, yes. Praise dancing, no. And so, our elders or who was raised a certain way get stuck there. And I think that's what happened with the Miss Ebenezer. I don't agree that that whole y'all slugs and y'all this and y'all that. You're supposed to come to church as you are. And then the pastor, the clergy, the mothers of the church, the congregation, they help you along. And you become the good Christian that you want to be, So Christianity is good. It has its ups, its downs, and it's bad. The church has its ups, its downs, and it's bad. But actually, the onus is on us to change, and the others are just assisting us. Because what? Faith without works is unalive. We know this, y'all. Let's not get stuck on the brick and mortar, but look at the people inside the church and have, if there's a change needed to be done, let's call them out. Let's get some change going. We in a period of a renaissance. Everything is changing, and that got to be our church too. Don't give them no ammunition, and Druski won't make a skit about you. See how that works?
That's a fact.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. With that being said, y'all have a good one.
You
Peace.
too.
Be
Y'all later.
one.
Be one.